This is the introduction of our 4-3 attacking overfront defense. We're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to have a collection of videos where we're almost going to do the installs for the front, base coverages, pressures from more of like a positional perspective, where we're going to have like a fronts install almost from a solely defensive line perspective, and then do linebackers and secondary, just trying to take a different approach and being able to show the defense and get into the specifics from a position coach standpoint and how you would want to teach, present, and talk about the different aspects of the defense as it relates to that position group. As an introduction, we're just going to talk about the philosophy of the defense. We're going to talk just over the overall scheme in the base. It's going to be a 9-man fit 4-3. There's going to be a lot of movement up in the front out of the overfront. The 9-man fit gives you the opportunity to do that. There's a lot of pieces within the defense to make the front right, allowing you to be really aggressive. It's just great for stopping the run in general, allows the linebackers to play very instinct and, based and downhill. I think it's easy to coach, especially the linebackers in a system like this, because their modes of transportation and the way they track the football is a very aggressive, consistent mode of play. Also, for the defensive line, it allows there to be a very natural and instinctual attack-first mentality, and it also gives us the opportunity as a defense to do lots of slanting and twisting while staying sound throughout the entire system. Against more shotgun, quarterback run, that kind of a thing, the wall-like fit nature of the defense is exceptional for being able to marry up to a variety of different looks in which teams are going to try and add that extra blocker and run with the quarterback, which is another great strength and why we like to do this, especially with what we see. Some things to alert in the defense, just talking general philosophy. There's going to be situations where you have to understand the stresses, and a big stress is the one-on-one matchups out on the perimeter with the wide receiver corner relationship, and the way that play action and certain pass concepts can create deep one-on-one situations within the structure of the defense. So that's going to be something that, especially when we get to those areas within the other segments, we're going to expand upon those things and talk about the different techniques and things that we do to be able to mitigate the stresses within the system. So without further ado, we're going to start off in our base front, over front. Okay, we're a true 4-3. The Mike is going to align off of number 3, our Mike linebacker. He's going to set the front. Over front with no tag, we're going to set it to the run strength. The Mike identifies the run strength in this picture right here. Okay, it's to the left. Okay, the 3-man surface is to the left. He's going to make a Liz call. Okay, and we're going to have a base 9 technique with our strong side end, a 3 technique with the tackle, a shade backside opposite the call with the nose guard, and the end is going to be in a 5 technique opposite the call. We talked about our middle linebacker. Our middle linebacker gets aligned off of the number 3 eligible receiver in the offensive formation. Our outside linebackers, our field outside linebacker being the jack, and our boundary outside linebacker being the will. They both are going to get aligned off of the number 2 eligible receiver in the offensive formation to their side of the center. In this picture here, the jack, counting from his side of the center, is going to count from outside in on eligible receivers. He sees the flanker, that's going to be number 1. He sees the Y, that's going to be number 2. His number 2 is attached as a tight end. Therefore, the jack is going to fit and align over his primary bubble off of his number 2. The bubble is defined as this open space, the open gap not covered by a down defensive lineman in front of us at the first level. Very simple. Okay, the Mike is going to be in that A gap bubble. Okay, the will is going to cover that B gap bubble, aligning off of his number 2 to his side of the center, which happens to be in the backfield. And because his number 2 is in the backfield, he is going to get in a 50 alignment. So when we talk techniques, right up front, single numbers, 9, 3, 1, 5. We're going to talk about that more in our over front install for the defensive line. And in our linebackers, we talk about 2 digits to signify being off the ball. Okay, so the jack here is going to be in a 60 alignment, okay, which is head up on the tight end, head up on his number 2, keying his cloudy clear and his bubble. Okay, the mic is going to be aligned off of number 3. Okay, he's going to be in a 0 alignment. Okay, double 0. Okay, off of the line of scrimmage, head up on the center. Okay, the will, due to his number 2 being in the backfield, is going to line up in a 50 alignment. 5 technique, outside shoulder of the tackle, but then off the ball, hence 50 at 5 yards. Okay, all of our linebackers are going to line up 5 yards off of the line of scrimmage. Okay, then working inside out, then we're talking about our safeties. Okay, so we have our free safety who aligns to the field. Okay, and then we have our boundary safety, our rover. Okay, they are both aligning off of number 2. Okay, the free safety's number 2 is attached as a tight end. He is going to get 10 yards off of the line of scrimmage. Because the tight end is attached, he is going to align 2 yards outside of the tight end to make sure that he is in a great leverage position to be able to fit his run fit assignment properly with the proper leverage. Okay, the rover is going to do the same exact thing except off of the tackle, because the rover's number 2 again is in the backfield. So now the rover is going to line 10 yards off of the line of scrimmage, 2 yards outside the tackle, mirroring the same rule that we have foundationally for both safeties. Okay, the corner, the field corner and the boundary corner, okay, are getting their alignment and leverage off of number 1. Number 1 from their side of the center, counting from outside in. In this picture, on both sides, okay, we only have a detached number 1 wide receiver. Only one detached speed wide receiver on each side of the formation in this pro set. With that being said, our field corner and our boundary corner are both going to do a motor technique, and they are going to get up at about 3 yards off of their coverage assignment with inside leverage. As we move forward, we're going to talk about our base coverage and how we start to align to different formations. Okay? So, in this set, we have a two back set, pro set. We have 1 tight end, 2 speed receivers outside the formation. We are going to base out of a quarters concept of coverage. Okay? And what we mean by that is that each defensive back in our base defense is going to be essentially responsible for a vertical quarter of the field. Now they are going to use the eligible receivers and their releases to help determine how they play that quarter of the field. And we're going to talk about that right now. So, okay, when we have an attached tight end in a 2x2 formation, okay, so there is no 2 removed, there's no slot. Okay, our corners understand that they are going to play man on number 1 if he does a vertical release. If he does not do a vertical release, if he releases immediately inside, we're going to communicate that to the inside backer, and we are going to zone off into the quarter that corner is responsible for. So again, when we do not have a slot number 2, when number 2 is attached to the core of the offensive formation, we are playing man over depth of number 1. If number 1 does a release vertical, we are going to take him man to man with inside and on top leverage on the wide receiver. Again, if number 1 were to go inside right now, We're going to communicate that to the inside backers. And we are going to zone off into our quarter. Immediately getting our eyes to the quarterback and seeing if any receiver is going to now enter our quarter, because if somebody leaves, somebody's coming. Now our safeties are keying number 2. Our safeties are keying number 2. So our free safety to the field here, his 2 is on the line of scrimmage. He is an immediate vertical threat. He's not in the backfield. He's an immediate vertical threat. So number 2 is going to, the free safety is going to get his run pass read, okay, off of the uncovered man, off of the tackle. If he gets any type of pass read, or number 2, through his peripheral vision, takes a fast release up to the second level, he is going to foot fire and look to gain leverage on number 2. He is going to foot fire and start to gain leverage on the inside of number 2 if number 2 takes a vertical release. If number 2 goes past the depth of the linebackers, he is going to take him in off-man relationship inside and on top of the receiver. As we're foot firing and starting to gain leverage, okay, and we're sure it's a pass, if number 2 goes in or out, at or underneath linebacker depth, immediately we are going to hinge and look to rob the next eligible receiver. To keep it consistent for our safeties, we want the direction of number 2 to guide our eyes and our hinge to be able to prevent any type of levels concept if number 2 goes inside, or if number 2 goes outside. We want to make sure that we're able to provide underneath robber help on any type of deep or over by number 1. Underneath, both outside linebackers, considering there is no detached number 2, they are going to relate to number 2. They're going to relate to number 2, and we're going to talk about that. So the jack is getting his run pass read from the guard and tackle. Okay? He is a cloudy clear run fit, okay, using the fullback as the indicator because it is two-back football. Two-back football. So the way that it would look precisely is that the jack has his eyes through the tackle and the guard to the fullback. The will has his eyes through the guard and tackle to the fullback. The Mike has his eyes through the guard, center triangle to the fullback. Because of our run fit, if we get run read in two-back ball, all 3 of these guys know that they are going to spill and overlap to the ball because we have 2 safeties that are going to be our force. 2 safeties that are going to be our force, okay? Both number 2s are in the core, okay? We are locked and loaded and ready to get downhill. Make sure we're leveraging blocks on the proper shoulder and being aggressive as possible. So for example, okay, let's say we get a run read. In which we're going to get a combo here. We're going to get an out block here, okay? And they're going to look to reach to here. So as we see these blocks come together, right, we know that it's a run. We're indicating off of the fullback, seeing the downhill nature of the offensive line. Our read steps are going to take us to the ball, okay, and we are going to spill because as the will sees the fullback come to him and he sees his read, we talked about the will reading the guard and tackle. These blocks go open. He spills. The Mike will then overlap. We'll have the rover down as a force, and then we have the jack scraping cloudy clear, looking for the cut back through in the A, and then the free safeties down to cover the C-gap bubble. If we were to get any type of gap scheme, These guys will spill, overlap, and look to get it to the safeties. And we will talk more about that in our linebacker portion of the videos. Okay? But that's an overview of what we're trying to get in the run game and two-back ball when we have pro set 21 personnel. Okay, the jack is relating off of number 2 if we get pass. So let's say if we get kick. Okay, we get some sort of pass read by the front. Pass read by the front. As number 2 releases, we are looking to reroute number 2 outside. We are looking to reroute number 2 outside if he is vertical to help the safety be able to regain leverage and be able to have a proper disruption of timing to the route. We're going to stay square and we're going to look to sync with number 2 and not allow us to get stacked back on the seam. If number 2 relates out, with no special call in our base defense, we are going to match number 2 out to the flat. Because remember, in our base defense, the free safety, if he sees number 2 go out, when he's attached to the core, if he sees number 2 go out at or underneath linebacker depth, he's looking to rob number 1 with underneath intention. If number 2 goes inside, okay, he's going to yell and communicate in to the Mike linebacker and the Will, who are going to be relating off of the backs to their side respectively. And then he is going to then zone off and search, zone match, and relate to routes that may come into his zone, which is clearly defined as a seam, curl, flat drop. Seam, curl, flat drop. We defend the seam first, then the curl, and then we will relate to routes all the way out to flat in our base gold coverage. We call it gold, and we'll talk about that more in our secondary progression. Now, to the weak side, to the split end side, okay? Our rover has the same rule, okay? He is relating to number 2 along with the Will. Now, with number 2 being in the backfield, okay, if number 2 were to release out to the flat, the rover is using this as a underneath or at linebacker depth outside release of number 2. Therefore, the rover would provide underneath robber support to number 1 into the boundary. If for whatever reason we were to get some sort of vertical release by number 2 out of this type of formation, very rare, okay, the rover is going to match him, okay, with inside and on top relationship and off man coverage on number 2. If number 2 were to stay inside, run some sort of a check down, okay, we are foot firing, reading quarterback eyes, looking to maintain leverage, okay, and looking to see if we have any deep over or anything coming from the field. So now as we talk adjusting the formations, and that'll give us an opportunity to talk about 2 removed and trip set. So as we get into 1 back ball, and we'll go field left, like the last picture. Okay? Field left. Okay? So now, let's say we have this type of a set, and then they take the number 2 out of the backfield, and they put him to the slot. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do, right, is we're going to set the front. So the Mike knows he's going to set the front to the run strength over, okay, in our over front. Okay? Weak side end in a 5. Nose is going to be in a shade. Tackle's going to be in a 3. Okay? Our Sam's going to be in a 9 technique. Okay? Our Mike gets aligned off of number 3. Number 3 is in the backfield. Okay? He's going to line in a 0 alignment, a double 0 alignment, 5 yards off of the line of scrimmage. Okay? Our Will, he's aligning off of number 2 from the outside in, from his side of the center. Okay? The Will is going to align in a 60 alignment. Okay? Our boundary corner has number 2 attached to the core and a detached number 1. He's going to be in a motor. Okay, and they're going to run gold to the boundary. Gold is our man match quarters, like we talked about in our pro set. Robber quarters. Okay, Rover's reading number 2. 2 is in or out underneath linebacker depth. He's looking either to rob 1 or rob to the field. Our Will is going to be a seam curl flat player relating to number 2. Our Mike is going to relate to number 3. Okay, our Jack now is going to apex. The Jack is now going to apex because his number 2 is now outside of the core, the offensive core of the formation. Okay, now our free safety is going to adjust his alignment as well on number 2. Okay, he is going to be 10 yards off, okay, by 2 yards inside. And now we are going to slightly change our coverage to account for the fact that they have a speed threat in the slot here. Okay, and we are going to go from gold, which is our robber quarters, and now we're going to play what's called blue, which is our palms coverage. Palms coverage. And the way that changes, without getting too far into the techniques that we will in later videos, okay, is that this Jack, instead of becoming a seam curl flat player, is now relating to number 2 in the seam curl. So we're essentially taking the flat responsibility off of the Jack in regards to number 2. In regards to number 2. So now the Jack is relating to number 2 on the seam and in the curl window. And in the curl window. Okay, the corner is now going to step off and turn and hinge to be able to see number 2. If number 2 is up or inside, he's going to play man on number 1. If number 2 goes out, the corner is then going to exchange with the free safety, and now the corner is going to buy the flat as number 2 immediately threatens the flat, and then the free safety is then going to hinge and look to gain inside and on top leverage of number 1 if number 1 goes past linebacker depth. The Jack knows that immediately, if number 2 goes out and we get a run pass read from our guard and tackle, okay, he's immediately looking for something else coming back in to his seam curl zone match responsibility, right? We say if something is leaving, something is coming back. So we want to make sure that we're understanding that in terms of how we want to play these types of formations, okay? Now, okay, depending on location in the back, if we get in shotgun, this becomes critical for the mic to alert push to one side of the formation or the other. Okay, in this type of a set, we're thinking that there's a possibility that we could get either run towards the tight end or we could get a fast 3 in the pass game out to the field, to the slot side. So with that being said, there's a relationship here between the Jack and the mic that is critical for this to be successful, okay, in which if we were to get a pass and we get 3 fast to the flat, okay, our Jack is now going to take 3 and our mic is now going to be replacing the seam curl relating to 2 or 1, the final number 3 coming back. The final number 3 coming back. And we're going to talk recounting in our linebackers and secondary video portion, okay? Now, in one back ball, what's important to understand, if we were to get run to the tight end side, right, we look to take read steps to stack blocks, meaning the defensive linemen play side in order to stress the blocking scheme and clearly define the ball, okay? The more the ball gets behind the quarterback, the more downhill and fast our read steps will become to see how these gaps declare. Backside, we're still going to be running our gold. This is how we're going to adjust to a one-back formation. If we were to get 2 removed to the boundary, 2 removed to the boundary, then we are going to make the same adjustment. The will is now going to walk out into the apex position. The rover's now going to get 10 by 2 inside number 2. Okay, the boundary corner is now going to adjust his alignment. Okay, and we are going to play blue on both sides of the formation. Blue on both sides of the formation. Front reductions are also possible to be able to adjust via game plan if one of these linebackers are susceptible to being put in too much conflict to be successful, right? Because as we have these bubbles interiorly, we are able to manipulate the front, okay, to be able to change where the available gaps are for the linebackers to fit them, which is a possibility and things we'll talk about in a later video. Now, if we were to get trip set, the count becomes critical. Say it's field left, field left. Our jack now, okay, remember he's always aligning off of number 2. The rover's going to make a 3-by-1 call, 3-by-1. And now the jack knows that he needs to walk out, and instead of apexing number 2 and the end man on the line of scrimmage when we had a slot, okay, now when we get 3, we are going to split number 3 and number 2 as the field outside linebacker. So we're splitting number 2 and number 3. Okay, our Mike now, okay, he needs to get aligned off of number 3. Number 3 is now removed from the center of the offensive formation. He's no longer in the backfield, because if we split the field down the center and we count from outside in, we have 1, 2, 3. So now the Mike is going to get aligned in really a minimum, and again, this starts to depend based on who we got here and that kind of deal and who we have here, right? But we want to cheat to our coverage assignment, which is number 3. So for right now, we're going to say that in a trips removed alignment, okay, the Mike is going to align in a 50 alignment. Depending on who this gentleman is or who this player is, we might go to a 30. But for right now, we're going to say a 50 alignment with number 3 removed from the box. And now the will, okay, he hears 3-by-1, 3-by-1. Okay, this is his number 2 to his side of the center. Okay, counting from outside in. Okay, he is going to get in a 20 alignment. 20 alignment. Inside shoulder of the guard at 5 yards. Okay, our free safety is going to align, okay, 11 to 12 yards, okay, directly over number 3 if he is removed. Okay. Our corner, okay, he is going to midpoint 2 and 1 at about 7.5 yards. Okay, very simply, the way we adjust our coverage, our base coverage here, okay, is going to transition to more of a cheat 3 deal, in which our corner is going to end up playing, okay, a modified third, zoning 2 to 1. Our free safety is going to play a modified third from 3, primary 3 to 2. True zone drop, okay? Our rover backside in base, okay, is going to coordinate with the boundary corner. We're going to like to teach this day 1 as true man-to-man. Man everywhere he goes, inside leverage press. This now gives us the freedom to be able to manipulate the rover in coverage based on what the offense gives us. In base, in true base, okay, he is going to look to rob number 1. That's day 1, okay? Especially at our level, okay, we're going to find that a lot of teams are going to put a really, really, really significant player here to try and see how we're going to adjust to that matchup. The way that we play our coverage on the front side, this is our special coverage. That's our go-to 3-by-1 coverage. okay, allows us to free him up. So that's our 4 in the back end. As we move to the second level, okay, our jack, and we try to keep these techniques really universal, okay, he's going to be a seam, curl, flat player of 2 to 1. Okay, so he's defending the seam curl of number 2. Okay, he's looking, depending on the release and action of number 2, to reroute him to the corner zone and then look to get to the curl of 1 late. If I were to tell you what the weakness is in our base 3x1, that's why we have adjustments. We'll talk about those later in the coverage install. Okay, but that is what we're giving up. Okay, we are giving up the deep to 1 and the curl to 1. Okay, we really are. Okay, that's the stress in the coverage. Okay, now, okay, if we were to get any type of wheel, okay, any type of wheel, it is important that the jack runs with the wheel. The jack has to run with the wheel. Okay, with our mic and our will, okay, our mic is a short hook of number 3. Short hook of number 3. So he's going to play the hook curl inside of number 3. And the number one thing that we want to prevent with our mic is we don't want number 3 to have immediate access to the rover. Again, we don't want number 3 to have immediate access to the rover. Okay, in this coverage, we do not feel like the mic has to turn and run with number 3. Okay, we have instances where that becomes the case in some of our in one of our other checks. But for right now, okay, for 99% of what we see, okay, our mic is going to short wall and reroute the vertical stem of number 3 to about 12 yards. So if number 3 stays vertical, we can stay vertical. Okay, now here's the most critical thing, okay, is if number 2 goes in immediately, our jack needs to communicate to the mic in order to prevent there being stress in that strong hook zone. And we'll talk about that more when we get to our linebacker, teach, tape, and video. Okay, so now, okay, our will, okay, because we're playing the boundary corner, man-to-man on number 1, we need to make sure that if this back, right here, if this back releases to this side of the formation, runs any type of flat or wheel, that the will needs to match him man-to-man if he releases my side. If he does not release his side and releases to the field, the will is now looking, we're going to get a push from the defense in which the mic is going to push to the seam curl of the true number 2, or the final 3, I should say. The jack is now going to push to the true curl flat window zone, and now the will is going to look to replace in the hook to be able to take 4 back, to take 4, the final 4 back. So that's our base for trips. That's our base for trips. When we talk option philosophy, okay? Okay, very simple. I draw it like this to start. So if we have this set, okay, A gaps responsible, you're a dive player. B gaps responsible, dive player. C gap responsible in our defense, you are a quarterback player. D gap, force player, you are pitch player. Anyone else in the 3rd level is going to be a Q2 pitch play. And there's going to be times where you're going to get a bonus player. And let me show you what I mean. So let's say we've got field left and we set it strong left, okay, in our base defense, over front, 9-3 shade 5. Okay, now usually double tight end like this, you know, and this will be in our front install, right? We'll go G. We'll go G here, right, to help prevent the weak side run. Okay, and now, right, we're going to essentially have our Will's going to line off of his number 2 in a 60 alignment. Okay, we're going to have the boundary safety 10 by 2 outside of his number 2. Right, we're going to have the boundary corner. Okay, over here in our gold, right, because number 2 is attached to the core. Okay, our free safety. Okay, our jack. Okay, and our mic. Okay, and our field corner. Okay, it's going to be gold both sides. Okay, if we were to get some sort of option, okay, our Sam's the D-gap player. So he is going to play the pitch. Okay, our Jack, okay, he is the C-gap player. He is going to play the quarterback. Okay, dive. Now, if it's speed option, you hope to be able to pick him up, right? Because we're getting full flow here now, right? We're not going to just teach him to bury himself if the running back and the quarterback are threatening the perimeter right now. But for the sake of the teach, right, he's going to clear dive and then add in, okay? The Will, being a D-gap player, if we were to get option this way, he'd be pitch. He'd be quarterback, okay? Excuse me. Quarterback, clear dive in the B-gap. Rover would be pitch. You look to add him if it's fast flow speed option right now. Okay, lastly, +1 player is the free safety. Okay, the free safety in this picture is the +1 player. He's going to be Q2 pitch. That's option responsibility. So again, philosophy-wise, okay, we are a true 9-man fit. If we get any type of pull scheme or things of that nature, we're looking to get a lot of guys in the fit. The last thing we'll show is if we were to get gap scheme, we talked about zone out of 1 back ball, okay, but the last thing we'll show for how it fits, okay, is we'll set the front rip. Mike sets it rip, in our base over. We got tight end to the right. The run strength is to the right. Okay, the Mike's going to be in a 0. Okay, his number 3 is in the backfield. Okay, our jack to the field is going to apex. His number 2 is removed. Our free safety is going to be 10 by 2 inside. Our corner is going to be off of number 1. Okay, we're running our blue here. Okay, and we're going to be running our gold here because number 2 is attached. Our Will is going to align in a 60 alignment because his number 2 is in the tight end position. If we were to get any type of one back power, when they're going to be kicking out the Sam, they're going to be doubling the 3 back to the Mike, they're going to block back on the shade, they're going to pull this guard and look to add gaps on that side of the formation, and they're going to look to run the football. Okay? Our Will knows, right, that we can spill. That's the advantage of this defense. So as he's reading this, as he sees this down block occur on the tackle, we know that we can play fast. And we are going to prevent this guard and this ball from being able to get downhill right off of that tackle's block. Okay, our Mike now knows that he's able to play with some speed because of how we teach. Right, this Rover is going to be able to force that block, and then we're able to pick up the Mike as an extra defender in the overlap. And now our Jack, reading that tackle and guard first, we will either call a front reduction in which the end now is able to cut back that gap, right? Or we're going to get the Jack to be able to fold and replace, and now we're sound, right? And we're able to get downhill. We're able to slow the football down from being able to be downhill, and we're able to make a lot of guys right with how many guys that we have in the fit. So that's a great example of the coverages we run and how we adjust the formations primarily in this introduction, how we fit the run in this introduction, why we like to do what we do, and how it gives us an advantage based on what we see. So moving forward, we'll do a defensive line-based install on the fronts and the stunts and the movements that we have, and then we'll go on to the other position groups, talking about everything in our base package, and some of the techniques that are going to be required to do it properly and effectively. So I'm really excited to show some film because we're going to want to watch a little bit to see how it comes together on game day. I want to go through it quickly just to be able to give an overview like the first part of the video before we go on to the separate sections for the front, the defensive line, the linebackers, and the secondary. So real quick, just talking philosophy of the defense, I like showing a couple of these clips to show the wall fit nature of the defense. Look at the safety getting involved, right? We're getting obvious outside perimeter run game here. And here's where we get that front side safety to the field, triggering downhill, along with the scraping inside out linebackers. Okay, stringing the play out and being able to get little or no gain. This is actually a TFL here on the running back here. Really good job, okay, playing team defense and finding the fit in the wall, okay? Here's going to be another clip. Again, perimeter run, just showing again the guys that are involved here in the run fit and the importance of them understanding how important their fit in the wall really is. And this is the advantage of the defense, right? We're spilling everything out, making the ball going east and west, and getting that downhill presence from the safety to be able to clean the play up at the sideline. Very good. Again, looking at the perimeter run. Okay, removing space inside, giving no place to cut back, tracking the ball inside out, and getting a finish here, okay, with everybody involved. Look at the amount of jerseys that we have, finishing at the ball. This is what we want to see. Very simple. So here we get a mixed call to the field. The outside linebacker's cheating it almost like a blitz. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, we would want him to be just, doing his read steps and keys from depth. Mixed call essentially frees him from playing blue out to the field. We talk about that later in the coverage checks. Okay, but ultimately here, what we're trying to show is this. Look at the spill here from the defensive end of the field with the open B-gap bubble. Okay, it's an over front. Okay, we're setting it rip from the defense's perspective. We have a 3, we have a shade. Okay, and we have a 5 technique here. Okay, with our 5 technique here into the boundary. Okay, so watch this. Okay, he gets down block. He sees that tip of the pad go down. We're going to talk about this in the fronts. What a perfect illustration of how we're fitting inside that kick out block on the split zone. Okay, and we're here making a nice play, keeping the ball from getting downhill. Okay, again, this is going to be talked about in the over front section. Okay. This is a read option, okay? So here, okay, we're getting the same type of action and read, visual key from the tackle here, okay, to the open B-gap bubble side. Watch how the defensive end squeezes down, eliminates interior space, cancels the B-gap from backside, okay? He then becomes a dive player per our option rules. Again, A-gaps on option, dive, B-gaps, dive, C-gaps, quarterback, D-gaps, pitch, +1 player, Q to pitch. Okay, he cancels the B gap from backside here. He's working to the dive. However, okay, he's got the athleticism and the presence of mind to realize the quarterback has the ball. Okay, and if you're going to do this, you better make the play, which he does. Very proud of him here. Good job. Okay, again, talking about visual key of the defensive end to the B gap bubble side, squeezing down. Okay, canceling that B gap from the back door, and then here we are. Okay, we got a little 2-back ball here. Okay, 22's dancing around again. Okay, this is what we want. Okay, we're indicating off of the fullback. Okay, we have over front, set Liz. Okay, that fullback declares here up to shoot. Okay, our middle linebacker's not wasting any time. Okay, getting a violent spill. Now, the only thing I'll say here is that we've got both our outside linebackers here. I would like to get better technique. Okay, we got to be square and fast here to be able to overlap into that bubble. Okay, we have the safety coming down to make you right in the alley here to the field, even though you're apexed on your coverage. Okay, and now we want 22 to be square. Okay, see that indicator insert up the chute, and he's looking to be right here, okay, to help overlap with the will. Overlap with the Mike. This is the will, okay? So that's what we want in 2-back ball, okay? Getting a little high on the defensive line. Okay, 71's not getting any extension. Okay, playing a little bit tired here on our interior 2 tackles. Okay, got to be better there. Okay, got to be better there. Okay. Again, 2 back ball. It's a great fit. Okay, got a power scheme here. Okay, we should be getting a spill here by the defensive end of the field. Okay, we do. Okay, 3 technique gets a little bit washed. We got to lean in and sit a little bit more. Okay, we're getting a late sit. Okay, if you look at the 3 technique here, he's starting to sit his hips late. Okay, and try and get these guys on 2 different levels, but we get a little too much horizontal displacement. Okay, what I love is that the mic makes him right. Okay, the mic makes him right. Okay, we get the spill here. Okay, we get the pull call. Okay, the mic is looking to spill, cloudy, clear, inside hip of the back, and scrape. Okay, he scrapes but sees that clear window. Okay, he sees the defensive end blowing it up, going 2 for 1. Okay, that 3 gets washed across his face. He hits that window inside out to the back. Okay, fast, and makes the play in the backfield. Again, the spill by 41 going 2 for 1's key. Okay, again, a little high. Okay, some more 2-back ball. Okay, great fit at the second levels here. Let's watch. Okay, we should be getting a spill by 41 here to the field. Okay, we do. Again, we're getting a little bit moved off the ball, but he does a good job going 2 for 1. Our 3 technique does a much better job here, not getting horizontally displaced. Okay, which gives the end the opportunity to go 2 for 1. Okay, if your 3 technique just gets blasts out there, that guard can go right now. Okay, but now the guard has no choice but to try and find daylight. Okay, he's got no daylight because of the spill from the end. Now the spill from the end needs to be better. We got to have those pads out a little bit in front. Okay, we need to have a little bit more violence, a little more physicality. Okay, we're getting driven off the ball a little bit, and our hips are leading our shoulders a little too much. We're not behind our pads. That's why we're getting a little bit displaced there. Okay, but the linebacker makes an unbelievable scrape here, staying square. Okay, you're having good footwork. Okay, tempoing. Okay, right there, he gets a little too caught up getting downhill. Now, again, we don't want to see that end get driven into him. Okay, because his aiming point right here to stay tight off of that spill of the end is phenomenal. We'd want to see him rip that near here, hip through here, set this, and then you have the outside linebacker coming outside in. Okay, and you got a great deal there. You're going to have 2 unblocked guys because the end went 2 for 1. Okay, here's a look at our 50 front. I'm very excited to share with the viewers the 50 front, okay? It's a way to make 4 down look a lot more crazy than it is, okay? Okay, essentially you're going to stand up your strong end and you're going to give him a destination pre-snap where he's going to be, and where you're going to give Oki 505 presentation up front by doing it. Okay, it doesn't change the second level or the third level at all. That's why we love it. Okay, it's a great way to create some sort of artificial pressure rushing 4 out of a 4-3. Because we gave him this should be a 56 or a 58 call. Okay, he's going to tell this end epic. Again, what we're learning in the next phase of the clinic here. Okay, he's going to go epic. Okay, end inside. Okay, the nose knows that we're getting the Sam off the boundary, so he's going to make a 1-gap movement to the field, and then you're rocking and rolling. There's your over front to the boundary. Okay, but the movement nature of it in the pre-snap presentation creates some confusion for the offensive line here. Okay, and we're able to make this play, okay, right here in the backfield. Okay, again, a great example of the 50 front. Great example of that 50 front that you're going to learn later in the presentation. Okay. Okay, got ourselves a little coverage sack here. Okay, we got a little bit of a late China call here down here. Okay, where we're getting number 1. Okay, low. Okay, and that corner is going to look to call China, get that apex defender out. Okay, so that he can now zone off his quarter, look for 2 going deep and out. Okay, but we look great here over here to the field. Okay, now we're getting that run pass read. There's no reason why this will. Okay, these read steps are too dramatic here based on what the offensive line and his indicators giving them in the backfield. Okay, we should be exploding out a little bit more square, okay, to get a nice vicious reroute here on number 2, releasing vertical, and then we're looking to not get stacked on the seam while keeping our eyes out to see if 1 is immediate and low for a possible China call. But we end up getting a great coverage sack, okay, great pass rush here by the 3 technique. Okay, the 5 starts getting too thick here and starts, looking inside, stopping his feet. Okay, and getting a wrestling match here with the tackle. We don't want that. We got to work that move right now based on the set of the tackle. Okay, the set of the tackle is not vertical at all. Okay, we should be hitting a speed rush here. Okay, swiping the hands. Okay, getting the hips turned towards the quarterback. Okay, and getting that rush around here to the end to his quadrant. Again, learning about the quadrants. Okay, in the next clip of the video. Okay, running blue here to the field. Looks like we're running a navy here to the boundary. Okay, it's a coverage that we're not going to actually be talking about today. Okay, but what we're looking is the field here. Okay, we get a pass read. Okay, and this apex defender here is going to make a reroute on the inside shoulder of number 2. Okay, you got the corner here with his eyes on number 2. Okay, you have the safety here with his eyes on number 2. Okay, the Mike's got to be a little bit more deliberate and fast here. He sees that 3. Okay, going out. I know it's a slow tempo. It's a distraction. Okay, but in our blue rules, like we're going to talk about later, we get that fast 3 out. We're going to yell push, push, push to that outside linebacker, and now he's going to expand through the curl while leveraging the flat while the will replaces him in the seam curl window. Okay, end up getting an interception here backside with good technique, okay, on that Navy call backside. Okay, we got blue to the field. Okay, we got blue to the boundary, okay? Okay, number 22 gets turned around here. That's not what we want. Okay, we got to get work outside and explode once we get our pass read. Okay, and we got to be rerouting him on the inside shoulder, trying to get him off the seam. Okay, while we stay square and look to climb that seam so that he can't restack us on there, right there. Okay, so that's what we want. Okay, he's got to stay square. Okay, got to get a good reroute. Okay, doesn't turn his back to the quarterback. Okay, we get both apex defenders doing it here. Okay, wow. Okay, okay, and look, in third down, okay, I get it. It's almost like because we're getting four verticals, they're chasing it almost like it's 2-man. Okay, but just to be technical here and just to describe to you what we want here on everyday downs, just on, when we're running our blue, is that we have to have our apex defenders square. We don't want them to turn their backs to the quarterback, okay, and we want them to get them off the seam, okay, while rerouting them from inside out, okay, while getting their eyes to that curl window to see if anything's threatening the core. Great jump here on blue. Okay, so hey, we have blue to the boundary. Okay, we have blue to the field. Okay, we're being a little bit better about our reroutes. I don't like 22's stance pre-snap. Okay, he's a kid who ended up moving up to defensive end for us after like about the midpoint of the season, just a lot more natural for him. It was a position that he had played in the past, coming from more of a 3-4 scheme. Okay, so if you watch number 3 here, we're reading number 2. Okay, the apex defender into the boundary. Okay, number 12 here, he's given way too much ground. Okay, I want him to work out square to that inside that shoulder and disrupt. Okay, in that curl window, because nothing else is threatening your curl. But number 3, this is great. He reads the tempo of the quarterback. It's 3-step. The pose of the quarterback is immediate. He goes to pull that pin. He sees number 2 about to break out. It's his coverage responsibility. He triggers well, okay, to the interception point, and we just got to get a finish here. Okay, now the free safety, okay, he's got to be able to see this, or the boundary safety here, he's got to be able to see this, and his angle of departure can't be so timid. We have to get on top and inside of number 1 right now, okay, in Palms coverage, okay, to prevent that shot, okay, right in that window where that transition happens between 2 going out and 1 going vertical. Okay, we got blue at the top of our screen, okay, and we've got our gold at the bottom, okay, and what we're talking about with our gold, right? Okay, now we reach a little bit here, which we don't like with 2 hands, and you see how we're opening the gate, okay? I like that initial footwork here, okay? There's a little bit of patience to it, okay, a little bit of motor, but instead of retreating that right foot and hip back, I would like to see that leverage be regained and start to work this outside release square and out. Okay, you want to disrupt them with your body. Okay, so we have a 2-hand grab here, which we wouldn't want. We want a left-hand jab on the inside shoulder of the receiver and his pec as we go to work and flatten that route down by staying square and letting the receiver open our bodies up with his body. Okay, but then we regain to get in phase. We have good eye discipline to get to the hip. Okay, we get in physical relationship with the receiver. We look back, and then we get a good finish on the ball here. So it's a good recovery here by the defensive back. Okay, we're also fortunate that the throw was a little bit underthrown, but this is why that we always have to coach the finish, okay, because the ball's not going to always be perfect, okay. If the ball's perfect and we don't start well, there's a good chance it's going to be a touchdown, okay, but the finish is going to prevent a lot of issues because of the unpredictability of the ball, okay. The finish is how we guarantee we're in the best possible situation to be successful despite breakdowns in technique that we're trying to avoid, okay. Again, this is a work in progress. Okay, we're trying to perfect everything that we do. When you're trying to coach a unit up with defense, okay, know that you always have to be relentless on coaching up the techniques regardless of where your guys are at, because it's going to give you the best possible chance to be successful. Okay, again, here got some blue. Okay, we got mod backside. We're much better disrupting the route here this time. Okay, but I don't like the hop. Okay, but he hops here to try and get square. Okay, and I know he would do this with us sometimes, and I could see it in practice trying to break these habits with him. But he does that in order to try and to get off those numbers and get more on top of them. As you can see, he ends up more in an over top and inside position, a little bit more dominant position on the route. Again, it's definitely overthrown, but as you can see when they're in phase here, I like that relationship that they get into when they get in phase. I don't like that hop, but he's better with his hand, he's better with staying square, he's better at forcing that receiver to get a little bit more disrupted off of his release when we're doing that motor backside. We have blue coverage, okay. We end up getting a covered sack, okay. If you look at the blue to the field, okay, we end up chasing this reroute a little bit, okay. We need a little bit more of an explosion to get contact onto that shoulder, and then an explosive drop back with eyes to the quarterback to rob the seam, okay. Mike Linebacker's here in a pretty good position. I like the depth that he's getting, pass situation, okay. The corner's reading number 2, okay. He's zoning and turning, okay, and running with 1 because 1's vertical. Okay, and 2's vertical. The safety here is it starts pedaling a little too quick. Okay, there's a little bit too much room for him to get beat across his face. Okay, he waits till about 3 yards to open the gate. I would wait even longer. This is where we're going to accelerate our pedal. Okay, in that position. So right here, excuse me, next clip. So right here is when we want to start in that 3x3 box that we're going to talk about in the coverage presentation. Now we want to start accelerating the pedal and staying square. And in the same theory as the motor mirror, we're going to let this guy, okay, open our body up with his body. We want to stay square as long as possible and utilize hips and athleticism to be able to get into phase. So lastly, a little snippet at the end of the video, I wanted to show our 50 front, okay, combined with a simple 5-man pressure, okay? So we're going to be running hot, 3 underneath, 3 deep, okay? As you can see, number 11's blitzing from the field, okay? 41, okay, needs to immediately go underneath, okay? This is, I already can know that we called 50 to the defense's right, so this would be a 57, okay? And we're combining it actually with an X stunt that we're going to talk about later in the video, okay? But we're running it with the X, okay? And what we were trying to get with this, and this is why the technique's so important, okay? This jack, he's going off the edge. We need to make sure that we get this gentleman going inside here with the edge pressure, okay? So we should be calling, okay, that the Tim call right here to get him going cross face, okay? And he doesn't do it. He does it late because he's remembering late here. Okay, but if we get him underneath, we're getting exactly what we want with why we were calling this. We're giving them that Okie presentation, okay, kind of big on big, and that guard on film showed that he was going to chase that center, that nose. He wasn't really necessarily always getting his eyes where they needed to be in terms of getting them back out to the tackle. And we were trying to get a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-2, okay, with the running back and the tackle here, okay, with a really good player in 41 and a very good player in 11. 11's Mississippi Gulf Coast right now as a running back, and 41 is at the University of Akron, okay, as a defensive end, okay. But we got to make sure that we're executing, Okay, but I love this pressure. This is, again, just a look of it that I had available to show all of you of would be a 57 jack hot with an X. We're going to talk front install first, base 4-3 install, talking over front first. Or over front, simple. The mic's going to make the call. He's going to make a directional call based on the strength. We'll tag the strength. Base rule, he's going for the run strength. In this picture, we'll just say the mic's going to set strong left. If there's no tight end, we're going to be in a 5, a 3, a shade, and a 5 alignment in our over front. When we're talking the techniques, center 0, head up, right? Shade is outside shoulder of the center. 2I is inside shoulder of the guards. 2 is head up on the guards. 3 is outside shoulder of the guards. 4I is inside shoulder of the tackles. 4 is head up on the tackles. And then 5 is outside shoulder of the tackle. 5 is outside shoulder of the tackle. Now, when we get a tight end, commonly, we're going to bump it out to a 9 with the Sam. So if we made no tag, the Mike knows that he's setting it to the run strength. One of the first things that he's going to look to identify, other than what aligns him, is going to be how to define the run strength. And a solid surface, a 3-man surface, is going to be, what he looks for first. Liz, we have tight end to the left. We're going to make a Liz call. Now that Sam is going to be in a 9 technique. 9 is outside shoulder of the tight end. 6 is head up on the tight end. And 7 is inside shoulder of the tight end. Okay. So if we have tight end left and it's Liz, we're going to break down the different rules and responsibilities and what we're expecting our guys to see out of their technique, essentially alignment in the front. We're going to be in a big attack team, attack, react, we're getting off the ball, gap control, that kind of a thing. So when we're looking at our defensive linemen and how they align in their techniques, they're going to have their technique hand down. They're going to be staggered with their technique foot back. Our end at our 5 technique right here, we see that the offensive lineman is on his left side. He's going to be in a foot-to-foot alignment, meaning the inside foot of the end is going to be on the outside foot of the tackle. He's going to be reading the tip of the pad of the offensive lineman. He's going to be in a stance with his technique foot back and his technique hand down, and he's going to have weight distribution that's a little bit more of 55% on the legs, 45% on the hand. And now, the reason why we like that is you're going to get more hip explosion that way. The more the weight starts to go to the hand, the more weight comes off of the hips as the ass rises up in the air. And now more weight is on that hamstring and on the toe, which is going to be a more of a transfer the weight type of phase for the, which is going to be more applicable for more of our pass rush kind of a thing. And when we're going to change our stance up to be in more of a predictable pass rush situation. When we're trying to come out of the hips and create a collision with our hands and strike with our hands, and our feet are going to be violently following through that process, it's going to serve us better to have the hips loaded and the quads loaded with some weight in that explosion in the initial part of our progression from stance to creating separation and then working an escape to getting to the heel line and dominating our 111th. So as the end, we're going to be teaching these guys the different blocks that they're going to be getting in our overfront. It's critical to be able to create an introduction for these and build that teaching progression for each position. From an outside shade, we're looking to get a down block, we're looking to get a base block, or we're looking to get a reach block outside of our pass read progressions. So when we get down block and we're the B gap bubble end, when we see the tip of the pad that we are reading on the side that we are shaded on, when it turns and once it vacates inside, we are going to look to redirect and cancel the B gap bubble from the backside of the offensive lineman. It's going to give us a nice gap exchange that gives us an angles advantage. When we get this, one of the things we're training these guys to understand is that when you get a down block, your eyes must go inside. It's called essentially a triangle in which our primary vision goes inside, our peripheral vision goes up to the ball, creating effectively a triangle. This is going to be important because sometimes blocks can lie to us, and if we get a situation with the ball, they're giving us some sort of false presentation, and now the ball is looking to escape right now. We're hoping to be able to get a redirect. So this is going to be very successful for us. We have eyes inside, so that we're able to be in a position to be able to react off of that inside-out block that's coming towards us. We're going to splatter and spill it, which is something that the structure of the defense requires, and that's what we're going to teach off the down block. A base block, we're looking to get the hands through the ear holes. We're not going to be teaching thumbs up off of the hip explosion progression and part of the stance. The reason why is because a lot of guys start getting into this uppercut thing that I just don't like it, right? The speed and precision and the ability to create that contact and speed through the hips and the hands is critical, especially in base block situation. So we don't get any type of horizontal or vertical displacement of the defensive lineman. So we're going to make sure that all of our power is getting directed into that half a man with the near hand on the sternum of the offensive lineman. The outside hand is going to be right on that bicep underneath that shoulder pad area, which is a great area to be able to give you some upper body manipulation of the blocker. As we explode, those hands goes through the ears, right? We're going to get velocity and precision through the hands as we're taking the most direct path to the blocker. And then as we strain and those feet follow and accelerate through the blocker, you're going to see those thumbs naturally go up as our hands are in proper position and as we strain. And that's going to be critical to be able to work getting into the block, resetting the blocker, resetting the line of scrimmage backwards, and getting to what we call that heel line, which is the initial area of the backsides of the offensive lineman pre-snap. That is our area. That's where we want to get to. That's where we want to dominate. We're going to be working through our technique shaded side of the offensive lineman to be able to work and escape and get there after we get collision and separation off of the block, and we're working through up to that heel line, looking to stack that block and dominate our real estate. Now, as we move inside, right now we talk about reach. Reach is essential to be able to play the reach effectively. We're already aligned in the gap that we want to win in. Okay, so the gap that we're responsible for is the gap that we're shaded in gap control defense. So as we get the reach block, we are going to be shooting out of those hips, and you are going to be a step late. If not, you're getting off the ball too slow. Okay. However, with proper technique and proper drill and repetition, we know that the shoulder that the offensive lineman is trying to beat us with is going to be the shoulder that to his reach side. So we're going to make sure that that hand that we talk about and how we redirect our feet and our hips, that once we come out of our hips and hands, right, and then we start to strain, that we're going to pick this shoulder up, right, that he's trying to reach us with, up with the hand, okay, and control, manipulate that part of the block to allow our hips and feet to redirect to getting into proper leverage and relationship in the block and the gap that we need to win it, okay? Excuse me, in the C gap. Sorry. So, as we keep moving forward, when we talk about this nose, okay, this nose is going to be shaded on the center, right? He's getting the same visual key from the center that we expect our 5 technique end to get in terms of reading that tip of the pad, okay, having his technique foot back, having his hands fast and ready to explode through the hips and creating strain. Just we're going to get a lot more double here, right? So that's one of the things that as we start to transition to our interior defensive lineman, it's so important to be able to teach not only a visual key, which is the man that we're shaded on and how his movement allows us to react late to be able to play the block with the best possible intention, but also a pressure key that's going to allow us to prevent horizontal or vertical displacement in any type of double team situation. So it is important to be able to teach those things in terms of we're going to get types of scoops and reaches, and but our back block is important because The back block situation is when we're going to get some sort of pull scheme, and it's essentially the true base that the nose guard gets. We want to make sure that he's in a position to learn all the necessary techniques to be able to redirect and to be able to add himself into the play, because at the end of the day, in our 9-man fit and behind our overfront, you know, he really can't be wrong if he's trying to manipulate that front side A gap when he gets a back block. Now, we're teaching him to get off the ball in such a way that really we have to be realistic in how we prioritize these drills so that we're putting him in the situation that he's going to see the most. And oftentimes with our nose guards, we're finding that when we get a back block, they're going to be, you know, almost at the heel line with how fast we're trying to get off the ball. So we're going to teach a progression that really starts from there, redirecting to a pull when we get a back block, him trying to get to that heel line and then redirect in the direction that the ball is coming. When we get to our tackle, it's a similar outside shade progression in terms of our down reach base. It's going to be actually exactly the same as the ends in terms of the down block and our expectation to get eyes inside, view the triangle, splatter, spill, anything that we see. If we get reach, we're expected to fight the reach. If we get double here, again, it's so important, right, that we're training our pressure key in terms of our visual key is going to be the guard because that's the man that we're shaded on. But as we feel the pressure of the tackle go down onto our outside of our body, we have to be trained to have the muscle memory to be able to jack the near shoulder and work it back to get these two guys on levels and to be able to fight our body back into the tackle to prevent harsh horizontal displacement, which is absolutely critical to the success of the defense, right? Because we have to ultimately control real estate, right? 9 men in the fit, 9 men controlling real estate because gaps change. You know, gap control defense, right? We're careful in how much we talk about that. But at the end of the day, right, you can say I'm in the B gap, but if the B gap has just moved over here because that double team just took you for a ride into the backside linebacker, we're not in a position to be successful. So it's important to be able to teach those pressure keys to be able to make sure your interior guys are in a position to be able to fight any type of double or horizontal or vertical displacement stress. Okay, our Sam is going to be in a 9-tech alignment. Our Sam is to the call. Liz. Our Mike has made a Liz call to the run strength. Okay, our Sam is going to be in a foot-to-foot alignment, reading the tip of the pad of the man that he's shaded on. He can either get a down block in which he's going to play the same way as the end. He's going to look at the triangle. He's going to work down to splatter and spill and to be able to get the ball from stop moving from downhill to moving it outside. And he's going to have technique as to how he plays those blocks as they come. Okay, if he gets any type of reach block, he's going to have to redirect, right, and fight and steer the block to be able to maintain his leverage and maintain his gap. Okay, if he gets any type of base block, he's going to have to create a collision, annihilate half the man, and to be able to reset to the heel line and be able to react based on the ball and work and escape to be able to execute his technique. When we talk about pass situation, okay, when we talk about when we're in our overfront, okay, and we can even talk about how we transition the stance, when we're in a third down situation, okay, we are going to expect our guys to lift our asses up a little bit, get a little bit more stagger in the stance, and get more weight on that hand in order to be able to what's called transfer the weight. Now our first step is going to be up the field, attacking through the technique to the quarterback. Now when we talk about how we leverage the quarterback, it's absolutely critical. In overfront defense, we talk about the quadrants. Outside left side shoulder of the quarterback is the number 1 quadrant. Outside right side from the defense's perspective is the number 2 quadrant. The number 3 quadrant is the in front left side of the quarterback. The number 4 quadrant is the in front and right side of the quarterback. So our outside rusher on the left side of the quarterback is responsible for quadrant number 1, our tackle in this picture because he's aligned Liz. He's going to be responsible for the quadrant number 3. The nose is going to be responsible for quadrant number 4. The end is going to be responsible for quadrant number 2, being the outside rusher to the right side of the quarterback. It's incredible the good it'll do for our, to continue to do this and be a work in progress to perfect this with our defensive line. But this is an incredible way to be able to instruct the defensive line to always get a finish in any type of pass rush situation, understanding or drill, organized setup, in practice to make sure that they are at their right quadrant finishing in the drill. It's just going to be an incredible way to provide some how they finish, how they pursue the ball, how they use the ball as a visual indicator of where they need to be to finish. And it's going to prevent a lot of headaches for the defense if our guys are always fighting to be in the proper rush lanes. To get technical, to show here, right, our nose is in the shade. He's going to usually draw the slide in this type of a situation, right? Our end is working an outside rush to quadrant 2. Once he starts to pass the level of his quadrant, he can now club counter, make sure he doesn't just run past the level of the quarterback. That is a selfish thing to do, you know. Like, you know, I don't care what anyone says. Like, we're hard on our guys about that, because if you're just blowing past the quarterback, I mean, yeah, it looks like you're trying hard, but you know, we make sure that we're practicing that doesn't happen, because that can end up being a disaster for us in containing the quarterback. Okay, our Sam is doing the same thing from the left side alignment. Okay, our tackle, right? He's going to be reading, and all these guys are either going to be working some sort of power or finesse move based on the release of the offensive lineman. You can get like a fast set right now, right, in which you're probably going to look to get some sort of finesse move. If you get, you know, like a soft set, like your guy just is getting away from you, right? You know, power, you know, and then, you know, working some type of move off of the power, or right, using an inside club hand if he's just going to retreat all the way back, are the things that you're going to want to have in your toolbox in order to be successful in 4-down football, you know, rushing the quarterback. And to go from there, right, the tackle's in a weird situation because, you know, he's got a one-on-one here, but it's actually really hard to maintain true quadrant integrity through a straight B-gap rush. So we're going to give him a two-way go on the guard. Two-way go essentially says that if he reads pass, or it's a pass rush situation, even better, and we're in over front, he's going to work a B to A gap rush off of the guard, depending on his set. Now, you know, what's the best thing to do is really kind of set these guards up in pass rush situation if you're committed to your over front, like some sort of like, you know, like a jab olay, like a jab with that, you know, in this position, right, we got the tackle shaded to the left of the guard in the 3 technique position in a foot-to-foot alignment, right? What we can do is work a jab with the left foot, you know, coming out of the stance, right? It's going to be a 1-2, right, where we get the right foot and then the left foot as kind of the jab, and then we're going to be transferring the weight off of the left foot, turning the left foot into the trail foot as that right foot works a juke off of that left foot to cross face and work, you know, the fastest rush to the quarterback, which is through the A, especially when you have a one-on-one like this. And then what starts to happen is what we're going to treat our nose, because he usually has a slower rush in over front in this type of a situation. He's going to cross, and it's going to turn to a natural ton on the fly if he gets color crossing his face, and it ends up being a quadrant exchange on the fly. And that's why it's so important to work your quadrants. When you're working your defensive line individual drills, when you're installing these fronts and you're getting these guys in the rush lanes as the quarterback, you're going to want these guys to literally come and put their hands on you when they are in the appropriate quadrant. And then you're going to want to do something where you tell them, the tackle, hey, look, you know, you're coming across in that A, and I want you to get all the way over here into this quadrant. So that nose has to now react and now get to the opposite quadrant. So that's our traditional over front, talking a little bit about, you know, what you're expecting in the run game to be able to teach and do it effectively, what you're getting in the pass game to just hopefully contain the quarterback and make sure that you're doing right by helping the guys understand that they have a true concrete responsibility in over front in an even spacing kind of deal in how we contain the quarterback in a 4-man rush. Last thing we'll talk about is G. When we tag G, the thing that we're going to change here is that 2-eye, or excuse me, the nose away from the call is going to effectively become a 2-eye. So we're still going to have Sam in the 9, tackle in the 3. Now nose is in a 2-eye alignment away from the call. This is assuming that this is a Liz call, strong left, right? So our nose, who's away from the call, is now going to be in a 2-eye. His visual key is now the inside shoulder of the guard, or the tip of the pad, excuse me, and that's just going to adjust a little bit the way that he's able to play these blocks and some of the schemes that we get to the weak side. And that's essentially what the G front gives you. It also, the G front is going to give you the opportunity to run a little bit more of a diversity of 2-man or even 3-man games out of your twist arsenal and out of that your line movements. By his initial alignment no longer being on the center, it makes some of these exchanges between the end and the nose a little bit faster, which makes it also a great tag and a good thing to have in the toolbox. So that's the over front in our base defense install. We talked over front. Now we're going to move on to our other base fronts. We're going to talk split next. Split also has a G tag. Split semantically essentially is signifying that we're trying to set the 3 technique away from the run strength. So this one's pretty simple. There's usually never going to be a tag on split. The middle linebacker, the Mike linebacker, is going to know to set the front away from the run strength. So if we declare a 3-man surface to the left here, split front, we're going to call rip, rip, rip. As we talked before, rip to the right, setting the strong end and the 3 technique to the right. With no G tag, our nose is going to be in a 1 technique alignment away from the call. We're going to have a 3 technique to the call, and we're going to have a 5 technique to the call. We're going to have a 5 technique away from the call. Away from the call. Okay? We have played with this in the past through game plan as to where we want this end. If we put a G tag, okay, this tells the nose away from the call that we're going to want him in a 2-eye alignment. Optimally, when we get the G tag, we're going to put the end in a 6-7 technique in which he's going to be head up on the tight end and responsible for the C gap. Next, we're going to talk heads front out of our 4-down base. With no tag, we're going to set heads to the run strength. If we set a 3-man surface to the left here, the Mike linebacker is going to make a Liz call, setting the front to the declared run strength, which is the defense's left. In heads, we're going to get our strong end in a 6-7 technique, lined up, head up on the tight end in a 6, responsible for the C gap in the run. Our tackle and our nose, tackle to the call, nose away from the call, both in 2 techniques, head up on the guard. Our end away from the call is going to be in a 5 technique, foot to foot. Heads is great, again, for 2-man movement, in which we can either game plan or tag 2-man movements to or away from the call, in which the linebacker is going to make that call to the tackle and nose. It gives us a great directional stick movement from our interior guys. It also changes up the angles of our interior twists. It also changes up the angles of our 2-man games and even 3-man games amongst the defensive line. Our next front is our rush front. A favorite of mine personally with our defense, in which we're going to have a 4-down front. With no tag, the middle linebacker knows that he's going to set the front to the run strength. If there's no declared run strength, he's going to set it to the field. So let's say in this picture, we have field right. Okay, field right. We're going to make a rip, rip, rip call. And we're going to set our strong end and our tackle to the right. Our strong end is going to look to be in a 5 technique. If there was a tight end or a 3-man surface, he is going to be in a 9 technique. Our tackle is going to be in a 3 technique to the call. Our nose is going to be in a 3 technique away from the call. Our end is going to be in a 5 technique away from the call. This front is a great front to be able to change it up on passing downs, especially when you're going to try and run some sort of 2-way go on either guard. That's something that's possible out of this front. It creates a little bit more vertical stress on the offensive line. Hopefully you force, based on tendency, some sort of different protection by the offensive line by being able to get into a front like this. And it also changes your ability to run any two-man game or even four-man game, adjusting your alignment to a rush front with double eagle. You can also do single-man movements to be able to get into over or under front, which is also a great utilization of the rush front and how we like to use it. Even something as simple as having the run strength or the big field set as the strength and being able to run a one-man movement to get into over front or a one-man movement to get back to an under. So rush front gives you a lot of possibilities. Another front, indie front, out of our base 4 down. Simple front in which the linebacker with no tag, the Mike linebacker, is going to set the front to the run strength. In this picture with the tight end declared to the left, the three-man surface being on the left of the defense's perspective, we're going to make a Liz call. This will put the strong end to the strength call. He's going to line up in a 6 technique, playing a 6-7, in which he's going to be responsible for the inside C gap, inside shoulder of the tight end. We're going to align both our tackle and our tackle to the call and our nose away from the call, both in a 2-eye alignment, and our end away from the call is going to be in a 5 technique alignment. This front gives you the opportunity to run a lot of pinch blitz concept. This is a great concept to marry up with some sort of double edge presser, saw type pressure, and get some sort of pinch stunts going when we're trying to create penetration in interior gaps, and be in situations where you're going to need some sort of heavy double A gap presence by your personnel that probably has the most size and power on your defensive unit. You're trying to get pressure, penetration, and knockback immediately within the guard-center-guard relationship, QB sneak, short yardage, goal line, those types of scenarios. It also gives you the opportunity to run some games, some different types of games, and it changes the angles and the timing of both your 2-man games, your 3-man games, and even your 4-man movements. That's your indie front. One front that we're going to show here is our 50 front. Our 50 front is a great way to inexpensively present an odd look pre-snap, get essentially a 4th rusher. Your coverage structure is practically unaffected, and you're able to create some looks up front that are going to give you an angles advantage, create a different presentation offensively, and should create some headaches for the offensive line as they're trying to deal with movement and unfamiliar looks throughout the progression of a game. Our 50 front starts with our strong end being off the ball, off the first level. So essentially, with no tag, our Mike is going to set our 50 front to the run strength. If there's no run strength, the Mike is going to set 50 front to the field. So let's say we have field right, and there's no declared run strength. The Mike is going to make a rip call, in which our tackle is going to align in a 5 technique. Our nose is going to align in a head-up 0 technique on the center. Our end is going to align in a 5 technique away from the call. Our Sam now is going to align for success, and we're going to talk about that in a second. To the right side of the offensive line, we're going to use a numbering system, and we're going to use this for the left as well, and we're going to see in a second why we do this and why the 50 front gives us the ability to do some pretty cool things. So to the right side, we have 1, 3, 5, and then we're going to have a ghost 7 for outside of the tight end. On the back side, we're going to have 2, 4, 6, and then ghost 8 to account for a tight end. So as we're teaching this, and as we make the call, we're essentially numbering the gaps of the offensive line to be able to give the Sam the opportunity to be a fourth rusher really wherever we want to declare him based on the second number in the call. So to keep it easy for right now, right, let's say we call 55. 55. Well, so the Sam knows, okay, rip, 55, I am going to be rushing the 5, which is going to be the C gap to the right. Now, this tackle is currently aligned in the C gap to the right. So what happens is the tackle hears 5, and the Sam's going to give a call to the tackle to be able to help him, because we don't want him thinking too much, because all he can really see is what's rightly in front of him. So our Sam, and we'll talk about our one-man movements, but he's going to make a Tim call to get the tackle out of his 5. Because again, the call is 55. The Sam is now going to align for success. He's going to align off the ball, out of the way of the other linebackers that are trying to adjust off their coverage. And he's going to be in a position to creep and rush from depth at the 5. Now the nose and the mic traditionally can help the nose with this, with a Louie or a Roger call. But the nose ultimately wants to get to a point through practice, through repetition, in which he hears 5, he knows the Sam is coming from the right. He is going to make a one-man movement to the left. And now the end is just going to stay a true C-gap 5 technique player on the backside of the call. At first glance, this looks like a big install. When the guys get a degree of mastery with this, it ends up being an absolutely incredible tool. Absolutely incredible tool, because it gives the defensive staff an immense amount of flexibility as to how we want to get to different fronts on the fly while giving more of an oaky presentation pre-snap, which can be very disruptive for teams that are preparing, for a 4-3 over, which we are. Also, it gives you the opportunity, especially at our level, in which you might have a guy on your defensive line that might be your do-it-all guy, and teams might get good at influencing where he lines up pre and post snap, depending on how they set the strength and your tendencies with what your fronts and your automatic formation checks. Having something like this gives you a lot of flexibility on where you want to get this player post snap. And so I love being able to have the flexibility of this front, and there's an infinite amount of possibilities where you can even run games opposite. You can call a 55 with an X backside, and you can do all types of very cool things in which you're able to get an oaky presentation, a lot of movement, the Sam wherever you would like him on either side of the line of scrimmage, and a lot of movement and disruption to create a lot of confusion for the offensive line in their blocking assignments. One more front we'll talk about is crazy front. Crazy is a great front for, we like to use it, whether it's third down type of a deal with some games, or as a possible empty check, where we're going to have these gentlemen stand up on the defensive line, and the Mike linebacker with no tag is looking to set it to the run strength. If there is no run strength, he's looking to set it to the field. So if we have field right in this picture, the Mike's going to make a rip call. sending the strong end and the tackle to the right of the formation. Initially, we're going to teach the SAM, tackle, nose, and end to essentially stand in relation in a two-point stance to the tackle respectively for the end, the guard respectively for the nose, so on and so forth. Ultimately, we are looking to get a game along with crazy. So whether it be a tex and an X, whether it be a ton with ends rushing off the sides, and we're going to talk about these movements and stunts later, but ultimately we're trying to get these guys standing and moving around from side to side. Now we tell them, don't let your disguise become a liability. We want to make sure that their feet are in the proper placement to be able to execute their games effectively with the proper foot back and the proper foot forward and that kind of a deal. But we're going to try and be athletes, and we're going to try and use our intuition to use the snap count to allow us to disguise, to allow all four defensive linemen to be moving laterally and confuse the offensive line, try and create confusion in the protection, and allow our guys to have momentum, athleticism, and even some swagger as they try to execute their game, execute a pass rush. This is a front again. We're looking for more of a passing situation to create confusion in the protection, or some sort of empty formation in which having our guys up, their eyes up, having a little bit more awareness helps us run some games that actually help prevent some of the issues that we might see and some of the problems the offense might try to create for us in more of like an empty alignment. So our crazy front, again, is a stand up by all four defensive linemen. They're getting aligned off of a man mark, which for the end is going to be the tackle, the nose, the guard, the tackle, the guard, and the SAM, it's going to be the tackle. And we're moving laterally and fluidly during the pre-snap process to create a little bit of confusion. And then right as the snap's about to engage, we're getting our feet set the way they need to be successful in our technique and our assignment for that play, depending on the game that we have tagged to the crazy front, or if we are straight rushing, making sure that we are aligning for success right as that snap's about to hit, and then being able to do our pass rush progression and technique. That's our crazy front. We're going to talk one-man movements first as we move into our stunts and movements, the semantics of which are very important. The more you carry, the more your semantics will help your kids, make the teaching progression for them easier and the retention a lot easier. So we try to do the best we can, and we're still, that's still a work in progress. But we like what we have right now when we're talking I words. So we'll start from strong to weak. Our SAM is our strong end, okay? If we have sit, that's an I word. That tells the SAM that he is crossing the face of his man. So I know we have the three techniques set here, right? This is our over front. We're never really going to have our SAM cross the face and not move the three technique with him. But just for the sake of teaching the semantics, in a sit call, that SAM is going to get his technique foot back. He is going to take a lateral 45-degree power step and then shoot and dip and rip into the gap, okay, into that crossing the face of his man. What I meant to say is if we get in a situation, as we know, where that tackle's trying to beat us into that gap, what's important for us to teach is that if you do get beat, we're always looking to condense the gap that we're responsible with. You want to take the man of the offensive lineman and shove him into that gap and ride him down into that gap if something like that were to happen. Tackle, Tim, I word. That means cross the face of my man. Same technique for the tackle. right? We have our technique foot back. He's going to take a lateral power step in which he is gaining ground and staying square, and then looking to rip that near hip through and transfer the weight with violence and speed and aggressiveness to create a small surface for the offensive lineman and try and create penetration into that other gap, into that A gap. Nip for the nose. Cross the face of my man. Same technique, same objective. Then epic for the end. I word, cross the face of my man. Same technique, same objective. Okay, and we're going to work drills and things of that nature in which there's tons of nuances as to the importance of how these blocks and the man that we're shaded on can influence the way that we need to be able to stick properly, right? Stick is our general term for a one-man movement, one-gap movement. And, you know, there's some drills and there's some opportunities to teach there to be able to optimize the execution of what we're trying to achieve, stunting these guys through and into the gap. So we'll talk immediately about past what needs to occur is if we were to call an epic, the nose needs to know that this is going to be an alert X on the fly. Because when we talked our original over front install, right, what happens is when we run an I word, we get a quadrant exchange. So when we talk about our quadrants, if we run an epic pre-snap, the end is now going to be responsible for the 3 quadrant. Now the nose must make a quadrant exchange and run an X and get to the 1 quadrant. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is our quadrants. That is the way we guarantee that we are being responsible for containing the quarterback with the defensive line. Same thing if we run a nip. It turns into a quadrant exchange post-snap. And this is something the tackle needs to be aware of when we hear a nip call. When we get a Tim call, it's the same thing for the nose. The nose has to be aware. The tackle is going to be crossing the face of his man. He is now going to be getting over to quadrant 3. I now need to know that it is my responsibility to loop and make a quadrant exchange with the tackle and play the 4 quadrant, turning into a ton on the fly. That is our one-man movements. Now we're going to talk games. So when we talk 2-man games, start with nut, then we'll talk ton, then tex, and then X. This is a great base to have out of your 4 down, your nut, tons, texes, and X's. So let's say we're going to get in an over front. There's no declared run strength, so we'll set the front to the field. Here we have field right, so the mic's going to make a rip, rip, rip call. That sets our strong end to the right in a 5 technique, because there's no tight end. The tackle's going to be in a 3 technique to the call. The nose is going to be in a shade opposite the call on the center, and the end is going to be in a 5 technique outside shoulder of the tackle away from the call. So if we talk nut first, right, semantically, we have nut, nose first, tackle second, 2-man game, in which the nose is going to do a single gap movement to the opposite A gap, making a quadrant exchange in the pass game, a quadrant exchange in the pass game. The nose now being on the left, being initially responsible for quadrant 3, is now crossing face and going to be responsible for quadrant 4 in the quarterback contained. The tackle is now going to loop by staying square, staying through the line of scrimmage, and he wants to strike a match off of the nose's backside with the front side of his body, right? Creating a square and even exchange on the same level, on the same plane. This is really important. If you get too much space between your guys in two-man games, it starts to get easier for the offensive line to recover. Your speed and timing gets disrupted. Now, also, one thing to be clear is that as a defensive staff in your teaching progression, there's essentially two different timings that you can use in your two-man games, and that is completely up to how you want to teach it if you want both in your arsenal. There's immediate, and then there's developed. So what I mean by that is there's an immediate nut in which you're going to immediately cross face and you're going to immediately loop at the start of the snap. And then there's pass rush footwork in which the nose is going to go and set up the cross face on the center with a jab, which is going to end up being a two-step progression. And then the tackle is then going to take a two-step progression in which his second foot, in this picture being on the right foot that lands, then ends up being the break foot that transitions to the drive foot on the left to then loop through and pass the nose behind him. So that's going to be an important conversation to have when you're installing your two-man games. There's the immediate, and then there's pass rush footwork in these two-man games. To keep moving forward, ton is now tackle first. Tackle first. Okay, the tackle in this situation, because he is working from an outside shade, he is looking to essentially read the center as he slants in a ton call. A ton call. He is looking to look for that outside pad of that center. If the center blocks back on the nose, that tackle is going to strike a match off of the ass of the center to be able to penetrate and get through to the quadrant 3. If it's any type of run scheme, what you're hoping to achieve is that if there's any type of zone scheme coming this way, that tackle is hopefully able to cut off that backside A-gap through the path of least resistance behind the offensive line. So that's how we want to train that and talk about that, and also guarantee that we're getting to that third quadrant in our pass rush. Quarterback contain. Our nose is going to use the same looping technique, staying tight and square with perfect timing, getting upfield and working to the opposite quadrant in that quadrant exchange in a ton stunt. That is a ton stunt. Tackle first, nose second. Okay? Now, to talk Tex and X, Tex is tackle and end cross. T is first, tackle goes first. So rip, 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 strong right. Sam in a 5, tackle in a 3, nose in a shade, end in a 5 weak. Okay? The tackle is going to go first. The tackle is looking to quadrant exchange with the Sam, and he is now containing to the 2. To the 2. Now, again, there's immediate, in which the aiming point of the tackle is going to be the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle. If it's immediate. If it's not immediate, if you're using pass rush footwork, your ultimate goal is to get to quadrant 2 while picking the tackle. So if the tackle turns back on you, if you're doing pass rush footwork, right, your aiming point's going to be that inside peck of the tackle. If you're using pass rush footwork where your second foot is going to be the left foot of the tackle because I'm on the right side, and he crashes onto you, you are going to work and escape outside of the tackle. If the tackle stays out and the guard continues to kick and stay with you, you are going to stay wide through the B gap to access the 2 quadrant. And it's so important to work that, because tackles will get really confused when they get a lot of practical reps. They'll start asking you why it changes depending on the protection, and it does. So it's important to incorporate that through drill work. The SAM's responsibility is that if it's immediate, he is looking to make a drive off of the right foot, step laterally with the left foot, strike the match and stay square, and then attack the guard. Attack the guard. If the guard blocks down, like we talked about with Ton, if the guard blocks down, he's going to strike a match off of the back side of the guard and cut that A gap off from the back door. Cutting both the B and really A gaps off from the back door. Okay? If he gets the guard's face, it is absolutely critical that he gets through and tight through the far chest of the guard into that A gap. If it's pass rush footwork, we are going to sell for 2 steps upfield in the C gap rush for quadrant 2. Okay, we're going to sell 2 feet, so we're going to have left foot step with our technique foot, then right foot step with that second foot upfield, and then we're driving back, break foot, drive foot, back, lateral, and then underneath to be able to get to that 4 quadrant. Ends up being an exceptional game when executed properly. Lastly, X. That's end cross. So between our end and our nose, we're getting across. E is first. The end is now going first compared to what our 3 and 5 were doing. So now our end, if it's immediate, is going to look to make an immediate one-man movement, an epic right now. Our nose right now is going to, off of that right foot, drive and get that left foot lateral and square, and we're striking the match off of the end, off of his backside, to create a gap exchange, and then ultimately a quadrant exchange, with the end now being responsible for quadrant 3 and the nose now being responsible for quadrant 1. If it is pass rush footwork, if it is not immediate, the end is going to look to sell with 2 steps. He's going to work right foot, then left foot, jab, and then rip underneath the tackle to get to quadrant 3 with an inside move, with speed. The nose now is going to flash and sell upfield, and then look to strike the match and quadrant exchange to the number 1 quadrant here. Okay? For the nose, in our experience, this one is one to really practice, because what can happen if these guys are good and they're really passing it off well, that tackle can pass that end off to the guard and then pick and seal that nose from being able to get to quadrant 1. So it's really important that that nose understands, as he sells it to that right foot, break foot, and looks to go drive off of that and transfer that weight onto that left foot to start working out to quadrant 1, that he gets his eyes to the end and tackle, stays tight off of the end as that color crosses back through inside, and then is prepared to work an outside move on the tackle if the tackle shows himself. So those are our 2 current 2-man games. The last 2-man game we'll talk about is unique to overfront, because we have a 3 and a 5. Because we have a 3 and a 5, a stink is also a great 2-man game, because it turns into a 3-man game if it's pass. Stink is Sam and tackle I word. cross the face of my man. We talked about that with our one-man move. Okay, we're now here, we're now here, which puts the Sam on 4, the tackle on 3. Okay, and this will segue into our 3-man games. If it's pass, our nose now knows that he has to run a nasty for a proper quadrant exchange. And we'll talk about our 3-man games next. Our 2-man movements are simple. 2 letters. Tie, to the call. Am, away from the call. That's talking to the tackle on the nose. So let's say we have over front. So our interior defensive linemen are kicked strong, shaded strong. Am would be away from the call, okay? So the Mike is going to make sure that he sets the front, rip, rip, rip. We're set strong right here. Okay, Am tells the tackle on the nose that they're slanting away from the strength. 2 letters, 2-man movement. So the tackle is going to execute a Tim. The nose is going to execute a nip across the guard. Okay, working our same stick techniques with our same footwork and our same ability to penetrate and get to the opposite gap. If we get knocked out of our gap, we want to make sure that we continue to fight and strain and close that gap with either the offensive lineman's body or fighting and staying square and getting cross-faced without getting vertically displaced. Okay, so if we were to run split front, in which we are away from the strength call, it's very important that we understand that we try to teach our Mike linebackers, and we have to be aware as a defensive staff, that if it's an am call, the interior guys are going to simply just go away from the call. So you're able to create split front, essentially, by going over am. Because if you go split am, that'll actually get you an over front. And let me show you what I mean. So when we teach our guys split front, which is essentially our 4-down under front, right, the Mike knows that he's going to set the front away from the run strength. So he's setting it. So if we're setting it away from the run strength, right now the Mike's making a Liz call. So to the offense, this is under presentation. So as a defensive staff, we need to understand that if we want to get back to over to the call, these guys need to hear an am call because they've set the front strong left. They've set the front strong left. So if we want over from aligning and split, we need to know that we want split am. Split am, because the defensive linemen are always going to go tie or am off of the Mike linebacker's front strength call, if that makes sense. So that's an important detail to remember, that those little things matter to the players, and you don't want to get in a situation, we want to account for those things beforehand without having any type of confusing reps in practice or even in our teach. So that's our tie and am. That's talking to the tackle and nose. 2 letters, 2-man movement, tie to the call, am away from the call. Three letters, 3-man movement, T to the call, A away from the call. Let's say we get in our heads front. We declare the run strength to the right from the defense's perspective. The Mike linebacker sets the front rip, rip, rip. We have Sam in a 6-7 alignment. We have the tackle head up on the guard to the call. We have the nose head up on the guard away from the call. We have the end in a 5 technique opposite the call. If the call is tan, that is speaking to the 3 defensive linemen opposite the call. 3 defensive linemen opposite the call, and they are going to slant to the call. To the call. This is a great guess right type of deal. It's also fantastic to marry up with some 5-man pressure stuff with guys coming from the second level. Very simple. If we were to call arm, that is speaking to the three gentlemen to the call, away from the slant. So now we're going to get the nose slanting away from the call, the tackle slanting away from the call, and the Sam slanting away from the call. 3 letters, 3-man movement, to or away from the call. Great to match up and marry up with some of your pressures. Also great to just do out of base and to be able to influence some movement up front. Try and be aggressive, get somebody free, get some pressure, that kind of a deal. 3-man games. Y words. So if it ends in a Y, our guys know it's a 3-man game. We have over front here. We have field right, so the Mike knows that he's going to set the front to the field with no declared run strength. That puts our Sam in a 5, our tackle in a 3, our nose in a shade weak, and our end in a 5 technique opposite the call. If we talk sleepy, okay, the first letter in the call is always the looper. So the 2 guys next to the looper know that they are the movement guys and they are going to slant to the S. So if I'm the tackle on the nose and I hear sleepy, I know that I'm away from the call, I'm away from the S, we are slanting to the S. We are slanting to the S. Now our Sam knows that he is the looper, so he's going to take 2-step, okay, technique foot, right outside foot, and then he is going to loop for the quadrant exchange back to the 3. Ends up being fantastic, really, okay? And then the end backside is still responsible for his quadrant 1, okay? Still responsible for his quadrant 1. The Sam wants to make sure that he is really taking a lot of air out, because what happens is in pass situation, because it's great for pass situation, what happens is as the pocket starts to form, if we just leave right now and go lateral, we're going to create a lot of vertical stress defensively in the game, and it's going to create a lot of area for you to get picked up by the uncovered man in the slide, while also creating a vertical seam issue in the A and B gaps on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. So this type of a path is going to be critical for success in being able to contain the quarterback, not create any vertical seam issues within the defense. So that's our sleepy. Quickly, we're going to talk about our tasty, our nasty, and our easy. It all follows the same rules semantically. So we have over front, set rip, 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 same presentation. Now if it's a tasty, okay, our tackle is going to be the looper. Our 2 guys away from the tackle, away from the call, know that they are the slant guys. So we know that our end is going to stick here, our nose is going to stick here. Okay, we now have the end going for the 3 quadrant, the nose now going for the 4 quadrant. Okay, the tackle is now going to set it up. Okay, left foot, technique foot, right foot, break foot, and he is going to loop for the 1 quadrant on the quadrant exchange. And now our Sam maintains his initial assignment as the outside contained rusher to the right side of the line of scrimmage. Nasty, N, nose is the looper. 2 guys away from the nose know that they are looping, they are slanting to the nose. Rip, rip, rip. The tackle to the 3, Sam to the 4. Okay, nose, sells it. Okay, he's going to be, okay, technique foot, left foot, drive, break foot, and then he is going to then accelerate through vertical upfield for the outside contain in the 2. And then the end has their 1 quadrant responsibility, outside contain rush away from the call. That's nasty. Okay, nasty is also what gets run automatically if we have a stink call, like talked about in our two-man game section. Lastly, easy. We have over front set rip, rip, rip. Our two guys know that E, end is the looper. Our two guys away from the end are going to slant to the end. Okay, tackle's going to be responsible for the 3 quadrant. Nose is going to be responsible for the 1 quadrant. Okay, end. Okay, technique foot, left foot, break foot, and then he is going to work laterally for the 4 quadrant. The Sam maintains his 2 quadrant outside contained rush to the call. That is easy. Primarily pass rush games. One more thing I would like to show is that easy and tasty actually end up being really great stunts to run out of bear. Let me show you that real quick. This is something that we've run before that I love. Okay, so let's set the run strength to the left. Okay, animal fronts, 5 down front. Okay, Sam's going to be in a 9, bear. Tackle's going to be in a 3, nose is going to be in a head up 0, end is going to be in a 3 backside, and Will's going to walk up and play the 5 technique opposite the call. If we have easy, the tackle and the nose know that they're slanting to the E, right? The E is the looper. We'll get something like this going out of bear, and this can be a fantastic stunt, whether it's pass or whether it's run. This is a really difficult presentation to the offensive line. So semantically, it ends up being really easy because, no pun intended, once the defensive line really starts to internalize and starts to become a little bit muscle memory, the semantics, you get a lot of flexibility about the types of fronts that you can call and, marry this kind of stuff up. So those are our 3 main games. Tank and Army, 4 letters, 4-man movement, to and away from the call. Let's declare the run strength to the right from the defense's perspective to the right. We're going to make a rip, rip, rip call. Strong end gets set to the right. We're going to be in our heads front. Sam is in a 6-7 alignment. The tackle is head up on the guard in a 2 technique. The nose is opposite the call in a 2 technique, head up on the guard. The end is in a 5 technique away from the call. Tank says 4 guys are going to the call in a single gap stick movement. Very simple. Again, fantastic for pressure, fantastic for tendencies in the run game, fantastic for changing angles up front, providing a different presentation for your linebackers. All good things, great to marry up with pressure and blitz games and that kind of a deal. Extremely simple. Army would be away from the call, 4 letters, 4-man movement, single gap movement away from the call with Army. That's Tank and Army, 4-man movement, 4 letters, 2 and away from the call. Linebacker Install, 4-3 attacking defense over front. Philosophically, to be a linebacker in this defense it's a privilege in the sense of if you're more of an aggressive minded individual in terms of what you're trying to achieve defensively, your linebackers are going to enjoy playing in this system. There's a lot of consistency with how we fit the run in terms of the progression of the linebacker, of how he just gets to the ball and how he fits in the scheme. It's that simple. Very, 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 very advantaged in this system to be a linebacker that wants to keep it simple and play fast. And that's why we like what we do there, teaching the linebackers. From a base fundamental standpoint, everyday fundamentals, like under the big umbrella of linebacking, universal techniques that we want to be good with and, can talk about at another time, are going to be stance, your steps, your read steps, your training of transportation, block destruction, reads and keys, and tackling. Right? These are universal, no matter what defensive system that you're running. To be able to do things at a high level in that category is going to be a direct reflection on how well your linebackers play on game day. And as we get more towards the scheme itself and how to install it, and we're going to make sure that the techniques and drills that we're talking about have a little bit more specificity to the install to capitalize on time and make sure that we're being efficient and communicating what I believe is just really important for the scheme to do properly. And so, on day one, when we're talking about stance, start, all of those things, fundamentals, footwork, block destruction, when we get truly into the install, the first thing that we'll talk about is casker. And casker is essentially a pre-snap process. So casker stands for call, alignment, stance, key, execute, repeat. Very important, right? Linebackers have to be able to get the call. There's an awareness required, and this ties into repeat, in which that you're following a pattern to ensure that there's order. That we have a process to guarantee that we can get the defense in a call and lined up, and that as coaches and as players, there can be clear expectations on how that communication happens live. Once the call is echoed to the rest of the defense, immediately we need to know where we need to be. We need to align ourselves for success and know where we need to align to be able to execute the call at a high level. So alignment then becomes the next portion. Your stance. Now, how we start is critical and determines the success of the rest of the play, simply. Okay, your key. Okay, and this is huge. Okay, this essentially is summing up, again, that saying, right? Master the mental to get technical. Okay, is we need to get this mastered to even be able to get to the football. Right, so, this is something that, again, day one, there needs to be a genuine effort from a coach and player, mentor-student relationship within the room that this is the number one priority, because this is also going to dictate how we control our how we play, effort, and so on and so forth. So from call to key, right? The whistle hasn't even, the snap hasn't even been engaged. We're not even in the play. Okay? Once we have these four things done, it's important that we now execute, and I define execution as our adherence to our job, our 1/11th, throughout the duration of a play. Throughout the duration of a play in order to achieve the task as a team defense, right? And we all have an individual responsibility to be able to do that. And then we repeat, right? So this is something we talk about daily. This is something that we'll remind our guys of depending on, different situations in practice and when we're doing our installs. To go immediately into base defense to talk about fitting the run, we're going to talk pro set first, two-back football. Okay, so first, when we talk our base, right, over gold is our base defense. Okay, over gold is our base defense. Okay, the Mike linebacker knows, right? He's getting the call from the field. He gets over gold. He's looking for the signals. Right? He echoes it to the rest of the defense. Okay, so that's the call. Okay, now alignment, right? How do our linebackers align, right? And in our base defense, right, we're telling them that you are using the eligible receiver that you are responsible for in pass coverage to get you aligned properly to the formation. Okay, for our outside linebackers, right, our field outside linebacker is the jack, our boundary outside linebacker is the Will, and our middle linebacker is the Mike. Our jack gets aligned to the number 2 eligible receiver from outside in to his side of the football, pre-snap. The Mike gets aligned off of number 3, okay, and the Will gets aligned off of number 2. So the Mike knows that if his number 3 is in the backfield, he's going to be in a 0-0 alignment, which means head up on the center at 5 yards. The jack knows that he is going to align in a 60. If his number 2, which in this picture is the tight end, right, with this being the sideline, with number 2 being the tight end on the football, he knows that he is going to align in a 60 alignment over top of the tight end. Okay? The Will knows his number 2 is in the backfield to his side of the center. Okay, so the Will knows that he is going to go into a 50 alignment. Okay, which is outside shoulder of the tackle, okay, at 5 yards of depth. That's that second number, that 0. Okay? Now, the Mike's responsibility is to set the defensive line where they need to be. Okay, so again, call. Okay, we already talked about alignment, right? But the Mike has an extra job with call. He doesn't just echo it and get aligned like the Will and the Jack do, right? The Mike now needs to set the front. Over, as a base rule with no tag, gets set to the run strength. So how does the Mike identify the run strength? Well, if we get rid of all eligible receivers, okay, we have our 5 down linemen, right? That's balanced, right? We have the center and then 2 linemen on each side of the center, okay, with 3 gaps, A, B, C, okay, without any eligible receivers present. As soon as you add an eligible receiver to either side of the offensive line, they are declaring a new present gap, which in turn declares the run strength of the offense. Therefore, the Mike in this picture is going to set the front, rip, to the right. Over front, Sam's in a 9, tackles in a 3 technique, nose is in a shade opposite the call, and our end is in a 5 technique opposite the call. Okay? Now, extremely simple when we talk about fitting the run. Okay, now let's go into our pre-snap process even further. We're going to talk about key, right? So call alignment stance, okay? Stance key, okay? Stance, right? We have a stance that works really well for us, in which we're rolling over the shoulders, bending at the hips, knees, and ankles. It just works with our read steps and everything. That's something that can be we're going to talk about another time. Okay, but when it comes to the key pertaining to the install, is very important. Okay, our Will, our Jack, and our Mike, we like to keep it really consistent in terms of where they're looking at the offensive line. It's really, really critical because it takes time to truly develop a master of reading offensive linemen at the linebacker position. Okay, so we want to keep it consistent in which the Will and the Jack are going to read the guard and tackle to their side respectively. Right, so they're using their peripheral vision to look through these two. Okay, now the indicator in the backfield subtly changes depending on the formation. The biggest change is the difference between 2 back and 1 back. Okay, in 2 back, like this picture, the lead back, which in this picture is this F, the lead back is what we would call the indicator. And our linebackers know, okay, that indicator says that is we're always going to be keying the same offensive lineman, but our vision can also see and have a secondary focus on a key in the backfield that's going to really help us understand and be in the right position post-snap. Our mic is going to read guard, center, guard to that fullback, okay? Because the fullback is the indicator. Now, we've talked about our key in two-back football, okay? Let's talk about how it fits out. And again, it's extremely simple, okay? When we have two-back ball like this, okay, all these guys are going to spill and overlap to the football, okay? So let's give some examples here. Let's say we get no pullers in the front up in the offensive line, no pulls, okay? But we get downhill run action, and where we see doubles and zone steps coming together, okay, some base blocks, okay, and the bubbles, okay, are clearly defined. We have 3 bubbles, okay, 3 linebackers, 3 bubbles. Bubbles means these are readily available gaps where a defensive lineman is not covering any of those gaps, okay? So we're going to be fitting off of the indicator with no pullers, okay, cloudy clear, okay, in the bubbles, okay? And we're going to talk about that. It's very important, okay? Very instinctual fit. So we know now that we're getting run action, okay? The fullback is now going to tell us what direction that run action is. Now the blocks will tell you as well due to the intention and the motion of the offensive lineman, right? If they give you consistent flow, we are now going to take our read steps with the flow that's presented up front, and we're going to fit off of this indicator here. So for example, if we get straight isolation right in that A gap, we're teaching that Mike that he needs to fit downhill and inside on the fullback's block. Downhill and inside on the fullback's block. This helps us with 2 things, okay? Is one, this is going to prevent the ball from getting downhill quickly, okay? Downhill quickly. We don't want the mic to turn. He's going to stay square and do an ear-to-ear spill on the fullback, ear-to-ear. Okay, we want to take up some real estate here, and we also want to make sure that that mic is drawing attention immediately to this center right here. Okay, very important. Okay, very important. So that way the combo, right, cannot create any vertical or horizontal displacement on the shade, which can end up being a problem in downhill isolation. Okay? As we get this spill, okay, and the ball starts to declare, okay, our jack, right, seeing the fullback go this way, right, he starts to take some read steps. As the fullback declares what we would call up the shoot, now the jack is going to be able to add into the fit here, depending on how the ball declares. Now, what starts to happen, again, trying to be technical, as the jack takes his read steps and this fullback hits, what you're hoping is that this mic and this tackle do such a good job condensing this space that as the jack starts to rock back, as the path of the back wants to declare up the shoot, he's in a position to be able to shuffle and then adjust if the ball starts to make its way like we want it to and start to bounce outside. So now our jack is in a perfect position as he's taking his read steps. He sees the fullback declare this side. He sees the combos come together, right? As he's getting downhill and this ball now hopefully bounces, okay, which we want it to do, okay? I mean, if he wants to just take it up in here and get tackled, that's fine, okay? We're going to be fine. But now this jack's going to adjust and make sure this ball doesn't hit in the seat, okay? He's protected too by a safety that's going to be working downhill as well to make the jack right. And this is what makes this defense great and allows these linebackers to play fast and aggressive, is that you're going to have the safeties making them right. If you look backside here, our Will's going to end up being able to play very fast, and he's going to be pretty protected against this combo because the Mike is going to draw the center. And here's what I mean. As we see the fullback go front side here to the run strength, okay, this Will takes his read steps as he sees this base block and out block by the 5, right, and this down block here by the guard, and then he sees the fullback. The first thing he's looking for is that fullback. Okay, and we'll talk about weak side run here in a second. But as that fullback's going strong, that tailback's going strong, this Will's in a great position to be able to work read steps, stack the nose, and then overlap and add into the fit. Add it into the fit because they're adding two extra gaps here with the fullback. Okay, now the rover is in position to make a sound and make the Will right, okay, in the cutback window here in this bubble. Okay? So that's reads and keys there. Now let's talk two-back football with the weak side run. Make sure we're aligned properly. Okay, now let's talk the weak side run. Okay, in the weak side run, okay, let's say, again, no pullers. Right, we get the same type of action. Now I can promise you this, depending on whether this is A gap ISO or B gap ISO, right, this single up to the mic's going to look a lot different. Okay, it's going to look a lot different. Okay, but either way, right, reads and keys. What are we looking for? The Will's reading the guard and tackle. Okay, the guard and tackle, right, we get a down block by the guard, we get an out block by the tackle. Okay, he's indicating that fullback through those two. He sees the fullback come right at him. Okay, without hesitation, we want this Will to smoke this this fullback on his inside shoulder. Okay, we want to wrong arm it and smoke that fullback. Okay, again, we want that immediate, and I mean immediate, okay, from that 50 alignment, he sees the C's part and that fullback turns and looks at him. I mean, it's got to look like a blitz, okay, with the proper fit. Okay, now, okay, two great things happen here due to the speed and aggression here. Okay, our mic now, even with a shade here, okay, so you don't even necessarily have to have the G. Okay, a bunch of great things can happen due to playing it this way at the linebacker position, and this is why you want to teach it this way with how you're playing the safeties and how we're fitting with 9 men, right? Is this guard has a pretty easy climb here to that mic. When you're taking this Will here and he's spilling this tight and this violent, what you hope is that guard gets either timid or distracted by the Will, right? And that Will is so fast, right, that he's essentially keeping that guy here, which is now going to give the nose the one-on-one and give him a great opportunity to make sure that this gets cloudy in here and there's nowhere for the running back to go. Okay, the mic now can be a fast fitter, over the top, right, tracking the ball inside out, right? Now we have our end in the C-gap support, right, and now we have our safety, right, who's going to force the football, right, keep the ball on his inside shoulder, right, and he's going to look to take a lot of air out and get downhill and be in a position, right, to get that ball going east and west and make a nice tackle here. Okay, our jack backside, just so you can see why we're doing it, the way we're doing it up here, okay? So now our jack, okay, again, right, he sees run action up front from his guard and tackle. Now he's indicating off the fullback. He sees that fullback go opposite, right? We're going to scrape. We are going to scrape, okay? And we're going to track the ball on its inside hip while pressing open gaps, okay? We're going to track the ball while cloudy clearing gaps. Does that make sense? Okay? Sometimes you just never know. I mean, and I mean this, like, you'll get some guys who just, right, shoulders square, and you just never know when you might get this. Film study is so important for that. You know, they might be running it just almost like a zone lead, right, and his aiming point might be this combo, the running back, and what they're teaching them, right? So depending on what you get there, they might see this vacate, right? They might see this guard come off fast and that nose rip and run and try and cut the gap off, right? And you might get this right now, right? So that's why it's important, right, to make sure that we're tracking the ball on the inside hip while pressing open gaps, okay? Because I promise you that backside A gap will get nice and big if that happens. Okay, this is two-back ball, okay? Now, let's say you get some sort of power scheme out of two-back ball. Let's stay over front. Properly align. Okay, pre-snaps process, right? Over gold. Mike sets the front, rip, rip, rip. Okay, now, okay, we're making the same keys. Now we get guard pull. Okay, we're going to now expect the Will and the Mike here to be able to give a pull call. And the backside safety here, okay, weak, should be keying the guard as well. The guard through the number 2. Okay, because we like the safeties read the uncovered man. It helps them fit well in the run. Okay, so we get pull here. Okay, it's the same rules. Okay, the way that they're going to block this up is they're going to try and take this combo back. They're going to back block the shade. Okay, they're probably going to lock that, right, and they're going to try and get this tight end, okay, on some sort of gap down backer path right now. Okay, gap down backer path right now. Okay, and this is what we're going to say here. We get this pull. The Mike should immediately know, right? And this is hard playing the zero backer now, okay? Because we're going to get the fullback going here right now to kick out that Sam, okay? It starts with the Sam, okay? And it's relevant to the linebacker to understand this. When you're the front side linebacker, we are really expecting this Sam to get quite the vicious spill, even though he's at a 9 technique. We want to, because guys will start burying themselves in here, okay, when it's pretty cloudy. Okay, that's not what we want, but at the same time, we cannot drift. Because if we just go downhill, a lot of people don't understand, right, when you're teaching the linebackers in the scheme, this will condense pretty heavily. And you want your 3 technique to be perfect in his real estate here, but this side is going to collapse as the play develops. So the jack has to be very wise about his aiming point, okay? His aiming point. And he needs to almost chase the cloud of the Sam, aiming for the hip of that tackle as that tight end goes down, and he sees that tackle and guard smack that tackle, and he hears pull from the other side of the formation. He's taking his read steps downhill. He wants to make sure that he's tight. Because remember, we have the safety and we have the corner on a crack replace, right, that's going to be our force player. Because we're still a spill player here. So we cannot let any type of interior downhill rush lane for the running back, okay, by drifting out and getting a little too wide, okay, and now we've got a condensed space in which the Sam is spilling and where the edge of this double team is and the wise block, and now we've created too much air from the jack. So the jack is looking to stay tight to the down blocks, right, and look for the first thing to spill and or the ball, attack the ball. So as this ball, right, is moving here, right, and the aiming point at that double, okay, this Mike knows that we can play fast, and this is the advantage, right, because in normal lever spill lever kind of a deal, especially if you're boxing, right, that Y is going to be difficult for the Mike to handle. Right, but we can really guarantee that Mike's going to be almost a +1 guy, and we're able to gain him fast play side, inside out, okay, to the football. Now that Will, he's got the pull, right, he is immediately looking to check the A. That's what we talk about here. Check the A. I get pull, right, I need to make this nose right. Okay, because the worst thing that can happen in power in this type of a situation, right, is that this, you never want this to happen, right, but this tackle gets a little bit worked here. They get this guy going here, and they wheel that Mike out, okay, here, because the Mike gets caught in that little bit of trash because we're doing a good job jamming this up with all of our numbers here, okay. and then that ball hits straight up that A-gap chute. Okay, so that's what our backside backer is looking to clear that A hard. Clear that A hard. And now our other safety is going to be able to be cutback support with the nose in the spot vacated by the guard. Okay, that's the gap scheme at a two-back ball. Okay, gap scheme at a two-back ball. Okay, just knowing how to tell the guys where they're going to be and why. Okay, it's important. Okay, and why we're looking where we're looking. Okay, is a big reason about why we want to get that. Okay, so now when we talk to one back, let's talk to one back. Over call, just stay in base here, over. Okay, let's talk call, right? Okay, the Mike's going to make a rip, rip, rip. The run strength is declared to the right. Okay, there's no tag on the front. Okay, here we see, okay, the Jack gets in a 60 because here's his number 2. The Mike gets in a 0 because here's his number 3. Okay, and then look here, okay, our Will here, okay, let's say it's field right. Field right. Right, our Will here, right, his number 2 is removed from the box. Okay, so now he's going to apex. Right, he's going to split number 2 and the end man on the line of scrimmage. We still have the same read keys. Now, on one back, okay, one thing that really helps to teach the guys, okay, is the location of the back. Okay, because we still have our 3 bubbles. 1, 2, 3. Okay, but we really only have 2 guys in the box now. Okay, so it helps the guys to know which bubbles are being threatened and how fast. So when we talk about the back, in one back, we're going to talk about different levels. Okay, right? There's going to be level 1, level 2, and level 3. Okay. Put it simply, level 1 is the running back, and it doesn't matter if he's staggered, okay? He's behind the level of the quarterback, okay? So something like this, or like a pistol kind of a deal, okay? That's going to alert all 3 linebackers, right, that my bubble might get threatened fast. Does that make sense? So my bubble might get threatened fast. So we have to be prepared then in level 1, especially for the mic, okay? That if you were to get any type of zone deal, okay, zone deal especially, right, that there's a chance that this A-gap might be threatened fast, okay? There's a chance that that A-gap might get threatened fast, okay? This is just base rule of teach here, okay? So we are knowing that we are, okay, this bubble right here might get threatened quickly in a level 1. Right? This Will's thinking, okay, this bubble might get threatened here in a level 1. And there's ways that we can help the Will here as well. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And the Jack, same thing. Level 1, right, I've got my eyes on that primary read key, and we're looking to see if we need to get here right now, okay, and get after those double teams, depending on the flow and the rate of speed that the back is shoulder square and he's hitting the line of scrimmage. That makes sense, okay? If we're having issues with that, and especially, okay, in the pistol, or if the ball now is here, okay, this Will, as an apex defender, needs to be more aware than ever, because now we've got this B-gap bubble, okay? We're in a level 1, so the mic is equally aware that this A-gap here, right, could be threatened fast, okay? We can do our one-man movement, okay, an epic here with the end to try and cancel this bubble and give the bubble a little bit closer to the Will here, okay? Back location is huge for that, okay? And that just helps us just be in a little bit more of an advantageous situation as linebackers. Okay, again, this is one back ball. We're talking back location and level of the back. Now let's say it's a level 2 alignment. Now the running back is even with the level of the quarterback. The advantage that this gives us through a process through elimination is that same side runs from this type of alignment, okay, through film study, you got to make sure of this. But in general, right, if they are going to do any type of same side run, it's definitely going to be slow developing, okay? And you can have, if you're a betting man and you're going to Vegas, okay, you know that this guy, there's a really good chance that if he is going to get the football in the run game, that they're going to look to stress the strong side of the formation. Okay? So this player is now able to play with a higher degree of confidence, okay, a higher degree of confidence, being able to play this B-gap bubble very slowly and holding his alignment here in that seam curl initial pre-snap alignment, in which we don't need to void him so quickly from the coverage, okay, especially in any type of RPO situation. Okay, this is a situation in which his location here, okay, the Mike essentially, through his read steps and how we're teaching him to track the ball, here we're not feeling like our bubble's going to get threatened fast. So our read steps, if we were to get any type of run action flow, okay, and we start to see, right, these combos start to form, okay, what we're really hoping to see is that Mike is going to take his read steps to stack that tackle, to stress this combination, that it comes off, and we're really going to expect with that type of a mid, almost wide zone path, that if that ball gets downhill at all, we want that nose in a position to be able to work here. Okay, we want that nose in a position to be able to redirect the heel line along with the tackle. And now that Mike, because the ball is a little bit slower and not as downhill, right, he's going to start working downhill, but he's also going to be in a position, if for some weird reason, if that ball is going to truly cut all the way back to the B, okay, that buys plenty of time for the will now to get to that B-gap bubble, and then you're going to hope to maybe pick up that Mike, okay, as that nose makes that ball cut all the way back in that type of a situation. So that's how you stay really sound here, right, and you try and slow that ball down in one back ball. And if you really coach this up and rep this up with some drills, right, doing reads and keys drills, let's talk about that, you can really make sure you're in an advantageous position here. Okay, but before we talk about the ways that you kind of rep that with the guys, okay, let's talk about level 3. Okay, level 3. Okay, and again, this is strictly run, because we're going to talk about the location of back in the pass game too. Okay, but level 3 is the running back is now in front of the quarterback. Again, Mike sets the front, rip, rip, rip. Okay, field right. Apex situation with the will. Okay, now, okay, we've got the A in a level 3. So we're anticipating quarterback run. Okay, this is really important. Okay, because now, okay, when we go to a level 3 situation, it becomes a very important deal to treat this as 2-back now. And the only thing that's going to change, is we talk about our primary read, okay, the triangle for the Mike, the Will's reading that guard and tackle, the Jack's reading this guard and tackle, okay. Now he's going to indicate off the A in a level 3. He's going to indicate off the A, because think about the things that you can get, what they're going to try and do now, okay, right? You get isolation, in which we need to be prepared, okay, we need to be prepared to attack this. Does that make sense? You just saw a problem here. When we get level 3, and you have an apex linebacker away from the bubble, okay, it becomes absolutely critical to try and find a way to get a gap cancellation. Okay, because now I'll take this all day, right? He's here, and then now he has to slow down. We have to get on air now, and now it's football, right? We're going to have this guy running, right? Because this is going to be cloudy, right? So he's going to be here. He's going to be here. We're going to have the safety fitting in the wall. Okay, excuse me, that'll be the rover, I'm sorry. Right, we're going to be fitting our wall, okay, really well in this type of a deal. Does that make sense? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so that's what we're trying to do here, and that's how we're making sense of a level 3 type of situation in which the back essentially becomes a fullback for the quarterback, which ends up being a really great strength of this defense. Okay, because by default, by the way we're having the safeties interact with the linebackers to make them right, we're essentially adding that plus one player for the extra blocker they pick up doing the quarterback run. Okay? So, okay, that's one back. Okay, so when we talk here, okay, great little drill to start off with, okay, is you just do guard, center, guard, okay, and you set up your linebackers, okay, you set up their linebackers, and just almost you can do just like a 50-0-50 alignment in the drill, and then you just have them switch interacting to pullers and indicators, okay, and what's really nice here too, like just kind of like an offensive front ID standpoint, right, like you're going to effectively get, 90% of your visual key, right, for these guys just by being able to just mix up a shade and a 3 here, right, a G and a 3 here, and just showing them kind of the steps and what it's going to look like in front of them while also combining it with the indicator, right, and then you're going to have the guys fit off of it effectively. So like let's say you're here, right, you got like a coach here, right, and let's say, okay, right, we're going to set like a bag, agile bag on the ground as the G, okay, and then we're going to set an agile bag on the ground as the 3, right, so we know, right, kind of a visual reference as to how these guys are stepping to this deal, right, so if you were to get something like this, and then the out block here, and then him here, right, you're expecting your linebackers, right, to fit it with the same speed and intention that we're getting from the offensive line in the backs and getting that spill like we talked about and making sure the center feels that presence, right, and then seeing how the other linebackers are now fitting and condensing to the football based on how the ball responds, right, and then we can redirect as it makes sense from there, okay? Now, if we get no indicator, right, and you're working the one back ball, right, you're going to have the linebackers talk about what level of the running back is the ball at. Okay, are we getting pull or zone? Okay, if it's pull, right, we're spill, overlap, right, okay, checking the A. Okay, these are all things that you're going to want to see in a drill like this, real simple. And then obviously, right, I believe that it's nice to do it like this. It also helps these kind of guys because one of the things with the Will and the Jack, okay, it makes outside linebacker so different than Mike linebacker, okay, is the Jack and the Will, okay, the play is either coming to them or going away from them, okay? The Mike is different. The Mike, when you're in that 0, you have 180 degrees, okay, in either direction, okay, off of your initial snap as to how the play is moving and your angles to the football, okay? What's nice about being able to do the guard, center, guard from the beginning is the Jack and the Will, when you're on the edge of the box like that, when you're, it's... The reads are a little bit more natural, I feel, for an average athlete. And as soon as you go to add those tackles in there, once they have a foundational understanding, and then you get a picture like this, okay, with some guys helping you out in the drill here, right? And then you go to set your front, like say we put a G here and a 3 here, right? That Jack and that Will should be pretty darn confident. And now, right, you're going from master the mental to get to the technical, and now you can start talking about when they get down blocks in a pull, right? You're going to really harp on them about what their angle of approach is in order to be successful and limit space, right? And limit space as this down block condenses after the play, right? So really important, really helpful drill and kind of deal that's very specific to the scheme and allows you to really harp on the things and the advantages that you get from playing this type of a system. Okay, so to stick in that base world, we'll transition now from the run assignments out of like our base quarters, and we've talked about there. I mean, our run fits really don't change, even in the diversity of our coverages in base, especially in base. We try to really fit it up the same, and it works. It does. So we'll transition now into really getting into the nitty-gritty of what we're going to try and do to progress and off the whiteboard at least, when we're talking about like our coverage install, what's helpful for the linebackers to know, what are the key what's the key terminology you want to use and kind of keywords to make sure that guys really start getting those mental reps of like, okay, this is a priority. This is a priority. Oh, remember this, remember that. Right, and so let's get into it. So when we talk about like our base gold, like the man match quarters, right, that evolves into our blue if we get 2 removed. So let's draw a formation in 2x2 to start, in 2x2 to start, in which we're going to have both present in the formation, both gold and blue. So if we look here, right, we have a 3-man surface, tight end, wide receiver. Okay, let's go field left. Okay, so we have 2 eligible speed receivers to the field. Okay, so 1-back football. Okay, so now the Mike knows he's going to set, if it's over gold, he's going to set the front rip, okay, to the run strength. Okay, Sam in a 9, tackle in a 3, nose in a shade, okay, end in a 5. Okay, end in a 5. Okay, our jack to the field is going to see his number 2 removed. He's going to apex the end man on the line of scrimmage at number 2. Okay, the Will is going to see his number 2, okay, attached to the tight end. Okay, he's going to get in a 60 alignment. Okay, 5 yards off the ball. Okay, and the Mike is going to get in a 0 because his number 3 is in the backfield. Okay, so now in gold, okay, we'll start in the boundary first, and let's draw the corner. Okay, and let's draw the safety. Okay, it's essentially a 3/2 concept. What we're trying to do is we're going to try and take the rover's mind off of number 1. Okay, and we're going to do this by playing a tight mod coverage on number 1, right? So what does our linebackers need to know? Okay, what do they need to know? In gold, it's very simple. Okay, in gold, which this side stays because we have 1 speed wide receiver and 1 attached wide receiver here, 2 eligibles, right? 1, 2. Okay, it's going to stay gold, and our gold technique, okay, is a seam, curl, flat player of number 2, which essentially means if number 2 stays on the seam, we're going to reroute him off the seam, okay, and hold the seam until something else enters the curl. And I'll give you an exact example of what that might look like. Okay, is if we get this and this, okay, what we're going to expect happen is the Will is going to prioritize the seam, okay, prioritize the seam, okay, and when the corner screams in, okay, because this is the only type of release that the corner is going to let go, he's going to explode to help, right? Let's not get too far into it. Stay on the linebackers. And now that Will is going to hear that in call, and then he's going to work from top down to carry and deliver and match and relate to the new number 2 as it comes into the mic. Okay? What's so important about this is understanding where the back is. All right, and we're going to talk full like recounts here and everything. Like this is really going to help the linebackers when you're talking about this. So the location of the back gets really important, especially in this true like 4-3 second level alignment, truly relating to 2. Like we're not cheated here. This back and where he is really important because they can influence where the mic ends up. Okay, so let's talk about that. The mic is relating to 3. Okay? The Will's relating to 2, the Jack's relating to 2. If number 3 goes fast outside, what happens is that we're going to end up having to recount. And what that means is that he's not the final number 3 anymore. So we're now stressed in the defense if we don't make some sort of exchange. So essentially now, if 3 vacates, the mic now needs to relate to the fact that they have now overloaded one side of the formation in the route count. So now our Will needs to be more conscious than ever because he is opposite the side of the back. He needs to take the final number 2 back because now the mic is going to be vacating if there's a fast number 3. The Jack, on the other hand, needs to be aware that number 3 is to his side, not only because of the run fit stuff we talked about, in the previous clip. Okay, but now, right, he has an alert new number 2. So if we get this, instead of him taking 2 back, he's going to then want to push to the new number 2, going from a seam curl responsibility with it being blue over here. He's going to go from a seam curl, and he's going to then push to the curl flat to leverage the new number 2. The final number 2, I should say. Because if the will stays up or goes inside, right, he's now threatening that seam curl window. Now the jack's now in that curl flat window to not get out leveraged by the final number 2. And now the mic needs to treat this as the final number 3. Because look, okay, let's say you got something silly and simple right here, like 1, 2, 3. You guys see that? Okay, so that's how we want to make sure we're communicating it to these guys, because the more that they think about it that way, the more they're going to be able to learn conceptually and respond well to new things, right? Because the offenses can invent a million different ways to do things, but if we understand it conceptually, it just gives us a shot, you know? It really does. So, okay? We're talking about the location of number 3 pre-snap and how it affects how we relate to 2. Okay? We are a seam curl flat player here because we are in gold due to the nature of the 2x2 formation and base. This is just gold coverage. When we get 2 removed, we check blue. So now our jack, who's apex, is now a seam curl player of number 2. Okay? The way he's keying and pass, right, is obviously these guys are reading their guard to tackle to the indicator, okay, right? If they get pass set, okay, right now their eyes flip to 2, okay? Okay, the jack is going to stay square, and he wants to maintain inside leverage in the seam curl window, inside leverage in the seam curl window, okay, on number 2. Because as number 2 tries to stem, we don't want to create a situation where he has easy access, okay, to where we're a little bit soft in the coverage. Okay, as we have the mic playing the hole to hook on both sides of the formation. Right, so we don't want to allow the easy access inside on the seam curl defender. So we're going to look to stay inside, stay square. As number 2 starts to threaten upfield, if he stays up, we want to reroute him off the seam to be able to help the safety. We want to stay square and give a violent shock. And then we don't want to drift out unless we have the corner screaming to us, hey, China, China. Okay, let's talk about that. So with any vertical concept of number 2, when you're teaching a linebacker in this type of quarters, okay, essentially what ends up happening is by doing this, right, what a team might try and do is try to totally void the underneath zone of the defense by seeing how this apex defender responds to the vertical of number 2. We have vertical help here by the safety. The safety owns number 2 vertical if 2's vertical. Okay. However, what can happen is an offense might try and sit this guy down here, okay, and put us in a little bit of conflict. And knowing the safety's trying to be on top and inside, okay, what if they give us something like this? Okay, and draw it a little bit more nice here. Okay. Okay, what if we get something like this? Okay, now we're in a situation where the corner, okay, is getting high load, and now this wide receiver is running to the zone void, okay, considering the safety, okay, is trying to maintain inside and on top leverage. He's going to try and play this as tight as he can, okay, but this is a little bit of stress in the defense. So now, in order to be able to pick up the corner where the defense is stressed and not to totally void this underneath zone, okay, by having him playing his quarter, okay, and having him go up too far on the seam, the corner now can scream China, China, in which it's essentially a de facto push by what the offense has given us. So now the jack knows that as he's working to the vertical of number 2 and he's looking to go reroute, okay, if he gets China, China, we want to get a nice downhill drive, okay, on the curl of number 1, okay, into the flat, allowing us to stay sound and allowing that corner to have the freedom now to zone off into his quarter, because that's what the routes are giving us, okay? One thing I love talking about, and I think some guys forget to bring it up, okay? If we're looking at that, one little weird thing, and this was a question I had as a linebackers coach. Don't make fun of me, right? But like, this is true. Like, what happens if you get a push, but then you also get a situation where you kind of have a levels issue, and you're stressed here a little bit by their overloading that curl flat window? Well, it's all right, because what happens is we get push, right? The mic now relates to the new hook curl. That jack is going to play a cough technique when we push. You're going to stay through the curl while not getting out leveraged in the flat. And essentially the jack is going to be able to play 2 routes by himself. Because if they throw this to the A, he's already here leveraging X. He's going to be able to rally downhill and leverage the ball. And now the mic has a clear shot to be able to hustle and pursue the football from inside out. Okay, so again, once you stick to these rules, fundamentally what you can do from a drill perspective, and again, this is 2x2, we'll talk about 3x1 next, but when we're talking some drills to help, okay, doing some sort of, call it match, carry, push drill. Match, carry, push drill. Okay, so MCP drill. So when we're talking MCP drill, okay, you're trying to teach the guys, okay, to recount and relate to routes, okay, and you're going to stress them out. You're going to give them stuff that's relevant that they're going to see. You're going to give them stuff that's designed to beat what you do, okay? Even stuff like mesh and things of that nature is so important to do in drills like this, to get your guys communicating with each other, to be able to get this stuff done and recount. So, like, we'll do like a little, like, cone as the center, get a quarterback going, okay? And then we'll just get some eligible receivers going, okay? We'll just get some eligible receivers going, okay? And you'll get your linebackers out, okay? You'll have, right, declare the field, okay? And you want them to go through your pre-snap process every time, have them set the front, okay? They'll give a Liz call even though there's no D-line in the drill, right? And we want to make sure we're properly aligned, okay? You have some way to signify the edge of the box, tackle, even if it's with a cone, okay? And you're going to want to script and do scout cards so that you can show the other guys in the linebacker group where to run, and you really want to make sure they know how to do it properly, you know? Make sure these guys are doing it with high effort to give a good look, okay? We want to see really good reroutes, okay? We want to see things that are going to stress the guys out. Okay, we want to look for the little things here. If you can film this drill, that's absolutely fantastic. Okay, we want to see things where we're getting stuff like this that are really difficult. We want to see things where we're seeing if our guys are remembering the little things, where we might have a stress match situation. Okay, where we're here and then number 3 is now up the pipe, right, which in our 2x2 quarters, right, that's a stress match by the mic. He has to run with that. Okay, so, great, this drill is really good because it's this simple. It's essentially slow teach 7-on-7s for the linebackers, and you're hearing their communication. You're able to show them difficult situations. You're able to hear them say, hey, no, this is the gold side. Hey, we got 2 removed. I'm apex on the blue side, right? These are going to be critical to do with the linebackers, okay? And again, that might seem simple. I don't know. This is just an unbelievable way. And if you film it, you're able to get into those little nuanced techniques on how do you want these guys to approach the seam route, right? How do you want them to reroute, right? What do you want their hands, feet, and eyes to look like when they're doing this? And if you're filming it, okay, and I suggest filming it from back here, and so you can see their eyes, and you can see the hands and the feet, and you should already know it, like on the script, you know, what the combinations is going to be, so you don't really need like the full field shot here. I love being able to see it from this direction so you kind of see a different perspective, you know, outside of your 7-on-7s period that you might film. So the match, carry, push drill is great. We'll also do a reroutes drill to even make it smaller in the beginning, right, to show guys, like if they're in that apex alignment, right, how not to get stemmed, right? It's amazing how many guys will chase to number 2, right, and get a little jab step outside, and then they're just getting ripped right across their face right there, you know? So these are the types of things that you're going to want to get in this drill work to be specific, okay, to the defense. So again, in gold, okay, in base, right, tight end attached, and a speed wide receiver, right? That's a seam, curl, flat responsibility. Okay, seam, curl, flat responsibility. In blue, it's a seam curl. Okay, so let's talk about even the different possibilities, okay? So, let's say we got this. Okay, it's field right. Okay, we got Y here. Okay, we got the flanker, quarterback, one back football, set it Liz, Liz, Liz. Okay, over, gold. We're checking blue to the field. Okay, we're going to apex. Okay, Mike's on the 0. Okay, Will's on the Y. Okay, like we talked about. Okay, the reason why we like to do this here, okay, is we're trying to relieve this outside backer that's still involved in the run game. We want to relieve him of the immediate out of number 2. So when I'm a seam curl guy and I see number 2 go out right now, I'm immediately looking for 1 to come and infiltrate my seam curl. And then I'm going to look to relate to him as the new number 2. Okay? If number 2 wants to go inside like this kind of a deal. Okay, again, we need to know the location of the back and if we have the mic. So I'm going to carry and relate and deliver him to the mic. If I have the back to my side, I need to alert that push so we can get to that curl flat like we talked about, covering the flat through the curl. Okay, now let's say he stays in and blocks, right? We now will relate over top of number 2. We're going to yell in and into the mic, and now we're going to let the mic be able to sink and stay over top. Now, in our defense, our safeties actually give us really good protection over getting leveled. Because remember, if the free safety sees number 2 coming in, he's looking to rob into the direction of the dig. But I personally believe, I love having the linebacker doing a traditional sink to be able to get underneath the dig as well, especially for the mic when he's in a 2x2 set and he gets dragged his way. Okay? So I know if I get an in call as the mic, and 3 did not release, okay, I'm looking to get straight back and look opposite the side the drag came from. If the back did release, let's say if we got this, okay, let's say we got this. Effectively what we're going to get is that we're going to get curl flat, okay? We're going to get the mic now pushing to the new seam curl, which will be critical if you get some sort of pick slide action. Okay, and if you were to get a dig some levels back, okay, you're going to have him here for support because what did number 2 do? Went inside. Does that make sense? And he's going to rob in the direction of number 2. Okay, he's going to rob in the direction of number 2 because 2's inside. If 2 were to be outside here, remember this is blue, right? He would be over top of number 1. Okay, so if number 2 went out here, okay, okay, the jack would be covering 2 to 3. Okay, we would have him pushing. Okay, we would have him rerouting. We'd have the rover over top of this and the free safety here. Does that make sense? Okay, does that make sense? So let's talk 3x1. Go field left. Okay, strong left in the run game, Liz, Liz, Liz. Sam, tackle, nose, end. Okay, Mike linebacker's in a 0. Okay, however, okay, the rover is going to identify 3x1. Hey, 3x1, 3x1, 3x1. The Mike and the Will now are going to bump over. We have Trey here. This isn't 3 removed. So my 3's in the box. The Mike knows that I'm going to be in a 30 alignment. A 30 alignment. The Will knows that he's going to be in a 30 alignment. In a 30 alignment. Okay? If we get removed, okay, just as a base rule, okay, the Mike is now going to go to a 50. The Will's going to stay in a 30. Okay? So let's talk about just here, okay, for a second. Okay? Mike's back in a 30. Okay? Free safety is going to get aligned off of number 3. Okay? Okay? Number 3 is a tight end. Okay, it's 3x1. Okay, we're going to make our special check. Special is our base 3x1 coverage. Okay, special, okay, the free safety, okay, is going to align 12. And this is 12. Go to left. Yeah, 12. Sorry, excuse me. 12 yards, okay, off of the Y. Okay? When we're just talking linebackers here, okay? We're just talking linebackers here. Okay? The jack, okay, is going to apex 2 and number 3. Okay? The corner is going to midpoint 2 to 1. It's just important to be able to show, okay, how it relates to the linebackers, okay? Just to align the full defense. Boundary corner is going to be pressed backside, okay? Just to give you the why, right? So the jack is going to be a seam curl flat player, okay? He's going to know in special that we're going to get some more width here, especially if it's Trey. Because, again, the weakness in this defense is the curl window here. Okay, because the corner is deepest of 2 to 1. The free safety's midpointing 3 to 2. Okay, we have to train these guys to lean on the inside route and break out. Okay, you know, especially at our level, right, we want to make sure that why are we running this type of a coverage in our base? We want to make sure our linebackers are freed up. Okay, we want to make sure our linebackers are freed up to be able to play fast and play downhill, and that we're going to have this rover here totally free as a bonus fitter. Okay, so our linebackers, okay, when we're talking coverage in 3x1, okay, we still have the same rules. We're still keying the same things. We're still keying the same things. We're still playing the bubbles the same way. Okay, we still have an opportunity to reduce here if we're the jack based on back location. Okay, so if the back's here, not as worried. Right, if the back's here, we can reduce. Okay, run a sit. Okay, now, okay, we just said seam curl flat. Okay, the Mike's going to be a short wall of number 3 player. Okay, so short wall of number 3 means he's going to drop to the hook inside of number 3 and look to reroute him off of the vertical release to not stress the safety. Okay, we're going to take that to 12 yards. Okay, the jack is going to make sure that if he gets an in by number 2, he's going to scream in and in to the Mike. Okay, because what we must have, is no cross like here if the back is away. Because if we release here, the Will's got to take him man to man, and now the Mike can't get leveled here with 3 going vertical and 2 coming in. He's got to take the final number 3 back. Okay, match, carry, push drill, and reroutes drill are fantastic for this. Another drill to work for the jack in that seam curl flat there and special is what's called a pass box drill. Is where you're going to set up cones to accurately mark, like let's say we have the hashes on the field. What you want to do is that you want to put the ball on the hash, okay? Put the ball on the hash and then try and map out the formation using zones to make a 4-cone box for the jack. That's going to signify the seam, curl, and flat and release routes. So what I'll do is I'll put a little receiver guy here, a little receiver guy here, okay, and I'll put a guy here, okay, just to signify the 3rd receiver. The jack knows he's playing his seam, curl, flat technique in special, but because it's special, you want him to get used to now the range, because it's the same technique, it's the same progression, but now the space that you have is so much bigger, okay, with it being 3x1, okay? So you're going to have those 4 cones, okay, there's 4 cones to signify that box that he's operating in, and then you're going to give him routes to relate to, okay, within that box in which he's defending the seam first, okay, then that curl window, out to the flat. Does that make sense? Okay, does that make sense? And that's a great thing to scout and do that properly so that you can give him the most realistic look, and that way you're challenging with his hips, his squareness, his ability to move eyes from the routes back to the quarterback, and then attack from top down on these routes to break the ball from the receiver and make sure that we're sound in the coverage. So again, when we're talking linebackers and the philosophy, linebackers need to know how to match and relate to routes. They need to know how the location of the back and number 3 in a 2x2 set affects the way that they relate to their final number 2, final number 3. We've got to know about push calls, okay? We've got to know about our run fits. We've got to know about, okay, where's the location of the back and how does that affect, okay, my ability to cloudy clear and play the run fit. Okay, what happens when we get pull? Okay, what happens when we get 2-back football? right? These are all things that are really going to help the linebackers and ultimately, right, master the mental to get to the technique. Okay, if your guys can, get to that point where they're like, yeah, man, I'm a whole player here. I'm in a zero coach. Okay, if three's out, I'm pushing. Like, that's what we got to do, right? If we're always on that, coach, I'm aligning off of number 2. I should be in a 60 here. Okay, Mike should be set in the front here. Okay, I'm looking and keying that guard and tackle. Right, the guard and tackle did this. I did this. Right now, you can start getting into that technique where you're really getting technical with the proper footwork, the proper steps, the proper pad level and alignment coming out of the stance, right? And spilling and playing blocks and block destruction. All those things can get really, really expanded upon and built into that developmental teaching process if we master the mental. And I believe, and what I hope, is that with the presentation today, when it comes to linebackers trying to play in a based 4-3 over with 9-man fit, that we're getting better at understanding what we have to do to be able to get those guys to play in the system effectively, and that. So that is the linebacker portion of our zone coverage and run fit within the based 4-3 defense. As we move to the defensive secondary in our 4-3 base defense, talk philosophy. So these guys can get into some one-on-one situations a lot, depending on the releases of the wide receivers, what our primary key is doing in our pass coverage responsibility. And so you're going to want the type of athlete that is not intimidated by covering the one-on-one fade ball with inside leverage, safeties that are good at maintaining inside and on top leverage, with number 2. There's even going to be times where, depending on our checks, we'll have a situation where these guys are going to almost be in like a cover 0 deal with him being off man on number 2. We're going to try and do the best we can to make sure that checks within the base coverage are just relieving some of that stress. But philosophically, those are the types of players that you're going to want to have. And it's amazing what you can do with technique and teaching to mitigate that intimidation. I was very fortunate to learn a lot of those techniques playing this type of quarters. King's College. Shout out to Chris Mantell. Shout out to Joe Gordon. These guys were just incredible. They were top 10, I think, in all of Division III for pass defense for 2023, King's College. Shout out to those guys. What they had to teach me during my time there in terms of the secondary play when you're playing these types of quarters coverage was something that really, really helped me be able to do teaching for our defensive backs when we're trying to play this type of a defense. And so shout out to them, and let's get into it. So, right, call, alignment, stance, key, execute, repeat. Casker is that pre-snap process, especially at the second and third level. That's going to allow us to be successful. The mic's going to echo the call to the defense from the sideline. In a perfect world, as these guys become more veteran, they're going to be able to look to the sideline and see the call as well, and then immediately get their eyes to the rest of the offensive formation to start their process and responsibility. Okay, so call for the safeties. Okay, the free safety is going to be responsible for the field boundary call. Okay, so depending on what hash the ball is on, in this picture, the ball is going to be on the defensive perspective right hash. Okay, which means it's going to be a field left call. Field left call. So the free safety is going to make a field left call. Okay, the jack, the field corner, and the free safety are going to travel together to the left. Okay, with a field left call, the will, the rover, and the boundary corner are going to travel to the right, considering that the big field is to the left. They're going to be opposite big field. Okay, now the rover is going to identify either 2x2 or 3x1, 1 back or 2 back. Okay, so in this set right now, he's looking for the eligible receivers to his side of the center. Okay, he sees 2 eligible receivers and the back in the backfield. He's going to say, hey, 2 by 2, 2 by 2, 1 back, 1 back, 1 back, 1 back. Okay, so that's going to tell us immediately what types of checks we're going to be talking about based on 2 by 2. Right, the linebackers know that they're going to be aligning off of their number 2 and their number 3 respectively because it's a 2 by 2 call. So all this stuff is important, okay, to make sure we're getting that type of a communication. Now, in terms of checks, okay, and we're going to break this down one by one and talk about the different techniques, alignments, and assignments in each checks. So to start in 2 by 2 and to start with 2 removed and a solid surface with a flanker, okay, we're going to talk gold being our primary check to tight end, wide receiver, and blue being our primary base check to 2 removed. Okay? So, when we talk about alignment, and to go tie back into that philosophy a little bit, these 2 individuals need to be aggressive, run fit, involved players. These guys have to be guys that are instinctual, that love to tackle, that love to run downhill, and to be able to leverage the football and make aggressive plays in the run game. Okay? So their alignment is critical for that, especially if we are in a gold tag. Because in gold, we're anticipating that because they've added an eligible receiver to the core and they've added an extra gap, right? We want that extra support from the safety to the run strength. So in gold, his fit in the wall is going to be essentially in the core. So from a philosophy standpoint, our safeties need to be able to respond in the run game. Okay? As we get to alignment, okay, one term I love to use in the room, right? We have to master the mental in order to get technical. Okay? Until we have ultimate confidence on our alignment and assignment in gold, blue, and then some of our other base checks we're going to get into, the technique portion of how to do your job effectively is going to be watered down because of a lack of confidence in where you have to be looking, and what are we trying to achieve with my task in my 1/11th. So that's why the alignment and assignment portion is going to be the most important thing that we do foundationally on the whiteboard, in the room, talking about the scheme and the defense. So as we start in gold, okay, what we're trying to achieve in gold is we're trying to have robber quarters principles, okay, to the tight end flanker side in 2 by 2 base defense in what we do. So what that allows this rover to be relieved of immediate on top and inside responsibility on number 1, which allows him to key run pass into the core and allows him to solely key number 2, who's in the core, to be able to decide his fit and or his pass responsibility. Okay? So as we work inside out, this rover, okay, in a gold call is going to be a mod of number 2 player, okay, a mod of number 2, which means he's man over depth. If 2 goes over linebacker depth with vertical intention, he is going to buy him man to man. So, in terms of the run fit responsibility, the rover is the force player in the run fit. He's looking to get a run pass read off of the first uncovered man that he sees to his side of the line of scrimmage. Okay? With the 3 techniques set this way, the tackle is going to be a pretty good indicator because he's either going to retreat for pass, right, or in any type of play action or hard run, we're going to see him block down or take either reach or zone steps, okay, or look to seal and hinge, gap hinge, if we get any gap scheme the other way, depending on what scheme they're trying to run. To keep it simple, we know downhill intention, right? We're looking to key run. We're thinking outside, stress. We're thinking run to the outside. And back location also helps. We're teaching the guys back location to help with this as well, okay? If we were to get any type of pass key, now that's when we're going to key our number 2 to be able to make sure that we're fulfilling our mod assignment on number 2. So when we talk forcing the run, okay, very simple. We're going to keep the ball on the on our inside shoulder, and we're going to look to take an inside-out path to the alley to force. Again, this is in gold, okay? This alley between number 1 and number 2 is our wall assignment, okay? Because if we were just to gap this out right now, Mike in the A-gap bubble, Will in the C-gap bubble, okay? Our Sam's going to be in the 9 technique D-gap, okay? And the tackle's going to be in the B-gap. So we are that extra fitter that's going to be able to force the football. Now, we have to be smart. We know that, for example, if we were to get some sort of wide zone scheme, we can't be too much in a hurry, and then now we're in a situation where we can't make anyone right. Okay? So, if we were to get in a situation where the Will got too far and over pursued the football, we're going to make him right. We're not going to follow our own color. If this ball were to cut back, right, we're still leveraging that ball with the proper shoulder, but we also have to adjust our fit based on our own color. And that is something that's a phenomenal drill to do, okay? And we're going to talk about that right now because it's a fantastic drill. It's called the Alley Cloudy Clear drill, where you can use this. This is a scheme-specific drill for the safeties when they are in gold and they are a primary force player in the run fit, okay? What you can do is you can set up with barrels a half-line situation. Let me move it over here. A half-line situation with barrels, okay? You take a ball carrier, okay, and you can either have him with an agile bag, tackling dummy, donut. It's better to have an individual to start the drill because it's just such a realistic look, and you're going to see in a second. Okay, what we're going to have is we're going to have a coach or player helper here, right in that C gap outside the box, okay, and he's going to have a pop-up bag right here. Then we're going to have another pop-up bag here, okay, simulating space in between the two bags, and you want it to almost be about 3 or 4 yards, okay, and then you're going to have another coach outside of this pop-up bag. You're going to have the safety at his proper depth, okay, and you are going to have, and you can incorporate a linebacker in here too, which is phenomenal, but let's talk about it without the linebacker, okay. This is the objective of the drill, okay. A coach is going to stand right here evaluating from a bird's eye view behind the defender. He's going to tell these two gentlemen to either close the window or open the alley, okay? And what that's going to basically mean is that we're going to have this running back go and attack the ghost tight end, almost like a wide zone concept. And as this rover reads run and starts to move downhill and leverage the football, we're going to either close this window or keep this window open and allow the back to declare inside or outside based on cloudy clear. This is just fantastic because it's teaching the rover to simultaneously leverage the football while also reacting to cloudy clear up front. And you can also incorporate an outside linebacker in this drill as well to get an incredible timing as to how the will and rover have to work together, okay, where the rover has to make that will right based on what that will is seeing at the second level. It's an incredible two-piece drill, and you get to work a great finish with a proper tackle. Fantastic drill for training the safeties. Because again, for this defense to work properly, these safeties need to be aggressive in the run fit. Okay, so now, when we talk coverage, and we're talking gold, this safety knows that if this number 2 goes past linebacker depth, he's going to take him with man-to-man technique, onside and inside and on top. Excuse me, sorry. Inside and on top relationship with the receiver. And so what that's going to look like is at the snap, the rover's going to foot fire, which means he's going to get on his toes, load his quads with some weight so that he can make an athletic and react to what his reads in front of him give him. Right, as that number 2 goes vertical, he's going to look to stay square and maintain inside leverage phase with him. As he gets past linebacker depth and we hopefully get a reroute outside, this gives us a great position, okay, to start incorporating a slow pedal as the number 2 gets within 3 yards of what we call our box. Okay, and our box is the area where we're going to start giving ground but maintaining square relationship with the receiver. The worst thing that we want to do here is when number 2 is vertical is start to hinge and open our hips, now inviting the receiver to have unlimited and unobstructed vertical access up the seam and outside. So once we get our box threatened, we're going to look to disrupt the leverage of the route by staying square, and if he wants to try and beat us cross face, he has to literally run through your sternum. And that's the beauty of trying to stay square and make sure you're working that technique, that as that receiver starts to threaten your box, you're going to stay patient, you're going to stay athletic, you're going to get in phase on the inside shoulder of the receiver. You're going to work to a cheek-to-cheek relationship on the outside cheek of the defensive back to the inside cheek of the wide receiver. And if he was to try and stem you and beat you cross-face, you should be in an athletic position square to be able to disrupt that route and be able to crush it down and be physical if he tries to rip across. Okay, if he wants to stay outside, now as he gets within that phase portion of the progression, now we're going to start to transition to get on top and inside of that shoulder and start to run with him and run him off of his landmark off the seam. And that's what we have to do very simply in our mod 2 if 2 gets a vertical release. If 2 is in or out underneath linebacker depth or at linebacker depth, now our rover is going to hinge and identify the next threat that might enter his quarter. Okay, so if we get an inside release by the Y, okay, we're anticipating some sort of level situation. So we want to make sure that we're hinging to the direction of number 2's release inside, and now we're going to identify and provide underneath help, robber help, to the next eligible receiver and route that wants to threaten my quarter to the direction that I hinge. Again, this is gold. If we were to get an outside release by number 2, you're going to provide that same help to the corner. Aggressive, underneath, off of a hinge, and working to support the corner there. Okay, now, if we were to get play action and Y blocks, you immediately want to key number 1 to your side. You immediately want to key number 1 to your side. So let's say we get play action, we're foot firing, we might even start to creep. Yet we were able to identify play action, we get the defense screaming pass, we're going to want to bail and maintain and get into maintain leverage again underneath, helping that corner as that corner fights to maintain on top and inside leverage on number one. Last thing for the safety, if we get a pull call and flow goes away from us, so we get a run read and flow goes away from us, we are the primary cutback player in the run fit. So instead of now matching and leveraging the ball carrier with our inside shoulder, now as that ball flows away and we get a run read, we are now switching our intention and our leverage. We're keeping the ball on that same shoulder, but now you're anticipating any type of cutback situation. Okay? You also must be aware of the quarterback in any type of quarterback run scheme split flow. Split flow, in which you're now able to help the C-gap defender and or the D-gap defender, depending on how the scheme plays out for the 9 technique in this picture. You're able to help with what would be the cutback in our wall, right? Because how we fit the ball, it ends up being a wall. Your responsibility will be the quarterback in the wall, because that's the cutback in the play. Now to talk corner play and goal. Very simple. We want to win by alignment, so our motor alignment, press alignment, okay, is going to be inside leverage. Okay, we want to be as close to the line of scrimmage as possible in gold in this situation. Because the flanker is off the ball, it'll end up being about 2.5 yards, 2 yards of separation. You are going to have a motor technique, and if one wants to release inside right now, you know that you aren't necessarily responsible for him, but you want to be aggressive, and we want to eliminate that possibility pre-snap with this look. Us aligning like this allows us to dramatically decrease, from the offensive perspective, the route tree that they think they have access to. So we're trying to take away the immediate inside. We're trying to take the intermediate inside. We're trying to take away the comeback. And we really want them to feel like they need to go deep with the football, whether it's the outside release fade, okay, or trying to convert something into a post. If the corner were to get an extreme radical release inside, he's going to scream in and in to the linebacker, and now he is going to play deep into his quarter and zone off into his quarter, identifying quarterback eyes and seeing if we get a deep and outside release of number 2. So again, that is our goal. Okay, that is our goal. Okay, in terms of corner drills and techniques to help, a lot of motor mirror. A lot of motor mirror. Okay, key points. Eye discipline. Eye discipline. Proper use of the hands. Okay, no lunging, no reaching, staying square, active footwork, and reps. Lots and lots of reps. Okay, and getting in phase properly. In phase drill, huge for the amount of 50-50 balls that you want to draw by aligning this way. Okay, so now, let's start talking checks into the boundary. Let's continue our split field mentality. Okay, things that you're going to see in gold. Okay, what if we get this type of reduction? Okay, what if we have some sort of tight end wing, right? Or it could be, true 10 personnel deal, and you never know, especially at our level, we might, you're in base, right? You're here. Okay, now, you're thinking in your mind, okay, we have to zone it, we have to check cloud. So if we're in our gold and we get any type of tight end wing, a reduction in splits between 1 and 2, we're going to essentially make a cloud call in which the will now is going to change his technique, okay, due to the nature of the corner and the rover now playing more of a zone concept. The corner is going to read 2, okay, and he's taking the first threat out to the flat right now. He is also now the primary force player in the run game. Okay, this ends up working out well, especially in our base over front, because we have somebody now in that true 9 technique playing that gap. Okay, so the corner now is going to be our primary force outside. That rover now is going to be our deep half player, and he's now going to be a secondary force player late in the run fit, as he is responsible, okay, for 1 and 2 deep, okay, breaking from inside out. He's going to key number 2 as well. He knows that if number 2 were to go out, or if they were to get any type of immediate out by 1 and 2, like some sort of inverted smash, right, he's going to buy the vertical with inside and on top leverage. The corner's eyes here, he wants to see through 2 into the backfield. He wants to see through 2 into the backfield. Because one thing that'll help the corner, right, because he's going to have a foot fire technique here to be able to hold him for run, because it's really important. We do not want to get out leveraged in the run game. Okay, is if he were to get any type of pullers at him, right, or he sees the ball declaring at him fast, he's in a position to set this edge properly and with good technique. Last technique portion when we're in cloud is you do not want this corner, okay? You do not want this corner to just run upfield to set an edge, right? You want him to be able to get to that heel line at the line of scrimmage, condense that area, to be able to be physical in setting that block with his inside shoulder so that this ball has to stop and cut back in to our Sam, our Will, our Mike, and our 3 technique that are pursuing from inside out. Any wheels and any fast 3 with a wheel, the corner's going to take it. The corner is going to take it, okay, to prevent any type of double vertical and wheel by the running back. To prevent any type of double vertical and wheel by the running back, the corner needs to make sure that at any type of threat to the flat that he gets, he's going to cover it through the curl, and if it converts to a wheel, he's got to take the wheel. Okay, again, that's our cloud if we get a reduction in our 2x2 set. Okay? As we move to the field, okay, when we get 2 removed, okay, this would be the same for the boundary. We're going to check blue. What blue does is that it now changes the corner and the free safety's responsibility when it comes to how they manage the out of number 2 and the vertical of number 1. So our rule is going to be mod on 1 for the corner, mod on 2 for the free safety. So if 2 goes out at or underneath linebacker depth, the corner is now going to play number 2 going into the flat from top down. The free safety is going to see 2 go out, and he immediately needs to be in a position to be on top and inside relationship to number 1. When we talk about alignment, in order to do this successfully, the corner's now going to back off of number 1 compared to gold, so that he can get proper vision on number 2 to see the out of number 2 when it happens. Okay? We're going to say that he's going to be 1 yard inside number 1 at 6 yards. Why inside, you say? If number 2 goes in or vertical, just like in gold, the corner needs to convert to playing man on number 1. So the free safety here is going to cheat his alignment out to number 2. Okay, the free safety is going to be 10 yards off, okay, by 2 yards inside to be able to make sure that he's maintaining proper inside leverage on number 2. If number 2 is vertical, same thing as in gold, Okay, he is going to play number 2 square. He's going to wait till he gets into his box to be able to start giving ground into his pedal, staying square, trying to get into an outside cheek to inside cheek relationship with the receiver, and being patient and not letting him beat him inside. That is blue. If 2 were to go inside past linebacker depth, then the free safety is going to rob in that direction, just like in gold. Okay, now, if 2 if we get any type of run action, okay, and let's say they were to run some sort of wide zone to the field, okay, the free safety in the corner and 2 removed are fitting in the wall off their coverage. They are fitting in the wall off their coverage. So if this ball starts to spill out to big field, the free safety is going to run that force window outside of number 2, and the corner is going to run outside of number 1 as the ball continues to threaten and stay outside in the play. As we talk checks, one check that we have out to the field, if we're getting very heavy run and we need to free up the apex defender to be able to attack the field side bubble with more speed and more intention, we can call what's called mix. Okay? When we get mix, essentially what it's saying is that the free safety now, if we get any type of run action, any at all, okay, any type of run action, right? The free safety's keying the line. The uncovered man to his side. If he gets hard run action, we know that we're going to lose this apex defender fast. And because of that, in mix, the free safety will be responsible for the immediate out of number 2 underneath linebacker depth. He will match it. Yes, it'll be an explosive drive from top down onto number 2. And the corner knows that he's going to buy one man-to-man when he hears mix. If we get run action. Okay, this is an important check because you'll get teams that want to start to pick on him when they see you running blue. And if you're in a confident and advantageous position in your 3/2 concept, right, and they're deciding to run you to death, this can be a great change-up and adjustment to just free that jack up and allow him to play fast. But it's just important that you drill and rep that free safety in practice, working that on bubbles, working that on arrow, and that kind of a deal, and even just hitch. Because yes, the free safety would have to drive that in mix. Yes, he would. So that's important to work there in mix, which is a good adjustment to 2 removed to the field. Okay? Now, as we talk our 3-by, when we get into 3-by-1, the entire philosophy behind our 3-by-1 coverage to the field is that we run it in order to give freedom to the boundary safety. And let's talk about that. So from a coverage teaching standpoint, our trips check in our base is essentially going to man up that boundary corner. It's going to be our special bonus, we call it. Okay? Special bonus. Again, shout out to King's College. In which, working from the boundary to the field, the rover is going to be bonus. And we're going to talk about his reads and keys in a second. But now the free safety is going to get aligned off of number 3. Okay, the corner is going to midpoint 1 and 2 at about 7 yards. Our apex defender, because he's aligning off of number 2, is going to split number 2 and 3 at linebacker depth. And now the Mike is going to cheat to number 3, his coverage, in a 50 alignment. Okay, the corner and the free safety and the rover. Okay, we just talked about the rover being a bonus player. Again, this is field left. Okay, this is field left. The free safety is going to play a modified third technique because now the eligible receivers is now unbalanced to the field. We are going to condense a stress coverage in which the free safety is going to play a modified thirds technique from 3 to 2. So he's going to leverage the vertical release of number 3 while allowing him to play and midpoint the vertical release of 2 if we were to get 4 vertical concept or a 3 and 2 vertical concept. The corner is going to do the same exact technique with 2 and 1. So he is going to play a modified thirds technique, okay, using the vertical of 2 to determine his leverage and his release, okay, opening up to the quarterback and having zone eyes, okay, and then leaning and breaking to the throw of 1 in a 4 vertical concept, allowing him to take the throw there with a true midpoint. From a high school perspective, okay, the divider that's worked really well for us for the corner has been that hash to the field. So if you were to get, because the hash is a little wider in high school, okay, if the ball was on the hash here in college, I would say about 2.5 to 3 yards outside the hash is a good divider, in which if 1 and 2 align inside of that, you're going to want that corner now to be outside 1 and 2 because you're going to get so much stress at vertical and outside if the offense wants to align that way. And we need to make sure we're leveraging that properly. But considering we're getting normal splits, okay, that corner, if 1 and 2, if 1 has a healthy distribution outside of the hash and he's aligned on the numbers and number 2 is utilizing the hash to gain his alignment, we want that corner to midpoint them at a 7-yard alignment pre-snap. Different drills and coverage to work in here is literally working vertical midpoint drills in which these guys are working, right? A free safety is going to work a slow pedal, transitioning to opening in his hips and looking at the quarterback. Okay, if we get 3 vertical fast, looking to get on top and inside. If only 3 is vertical, if 3 and 2 are both vertical, he's going to maintain that relationship while looking at the quarterback, while leaning on 3 and breaking to 2. That's an important thing to work in drills and to film to make sure that your hip mobility, your fluidity, and most importantly, that the break to 2 gets viced. Because what happens is, let's say 3 and 2 are both vertical, right, and then they're using 1 to attack the underneath zones. You're going to get the corner leaning on 2, right? So it's so important that that free safety and that corner end up getting a late vice on number 2 if the quarterback wants to try and make that throw. And that's what you have to work in the drills, okay? But most importantly, we have to take 3 back. And the Mike's job is to help that free safety in preventing 3 from having immediate access to this area of the field. Now, okay, this rover, okay, when we're starting off and why we want to install this over here to the field with the corner and the free safety and how we play it, is we're willing to be a little bit weak on number 1 in both the curl and the vertical if it's 4 verticals in order to make sure that we're having a lot of support against the run and a lot of support against number 1 weak. Okay, the possibilities are limitless here to the boundary to how you're going to play this rover. He can be a true robber here pre-snap. He can key 1 and 3 depending on their releases. There's a multiple different things that you can train depending on the personnel that you have here in this position and what the offense is trying to give you based on their personnel. So now, when we talk adjustments based on what they give us, okay, if you were to get a nasty split by number 1, it's important that you check the coverage because now the corner and the rover are stressed without properly communicating the releases of 1 and number 2. Okay? So we're going to make a Connie call as the corner because I know I have the rover. In some of our poach stuff, right, we're going to have to make what's called a Cora call because we won't have help from the rover. But because we have help from the rover, we're going to talk about Connie today, in which now the corner is going to get in his same leverage that he does in cloud. Okay? And this is going to be very specific. He's going to be 5 yards outside, number 1, okay, and this is if number one reduces into the core like this. If it's a true nasty split, okay, we're going to maintain outside leverage, okay, in our motor mirror phase, okay, outside leverage with our motor mirror phase being about 2 yards off, okay, with eyes going inside of the formation. However, if he's in a true tight end alignment, right, now we want to be in our 5 yards off by 4 yards outside. 5 yards off by 4 yards outside. Okay, we're keying the release. We're keying the release of number 1 to 2. Okay, so if we were to get any type of fast release by number 2, okay, any fast release by number 2, okay, our weak side inside linebacker is going to go with it. Okay, because we have the rover, if we get an inside and immediate release by number 1, okay, the rover's going to track it, okay, until it goes into the hook and curl to the field. If we get any type of vertical inside or outside release, okay, the corner and the rover are going to bracket with outside leverage by the corner, outside and underneath, okay, and the rover is going to be inside and on top. Again, if number 2's out, the will tracks it, okay? Now, if this gentleman right here, this number 1, if he goes inside and number 2 wants to run that wheel, the advantage that we get is that the will is not alone. The corner, when he sees one rip in, he knows he can't bracket anymore, so he's just going to zone off his quarter, which gives us great protection against a very common concept when we get nub side to 3x1, or even a nasty or reduced split. So what are we trying to achieve in Connie? We're trying to get a bracket with the boundary safety and the corner on any vertical release by number 1, while keeping the will in a personnel matchup with the running back on any outside release. If number 1 goes inside, the rover's going to track it as it goes to the zone side, and now that frees up the corner to be able to assist with the will with any immediate outside or up the field release by number 2 in the backfield. From a base overview standpoint, that is our base install, okay, for our secondary players at the field corner, the free safety, the rover, the boundary safety, and our boundary corner. The pre-snap process and formation ID is critical so that the defense can be confident and get aligned. Okay, understanding the techniques that it's going to take to play the scheme successfully, and our checks based on how formations change, okay, in 2x2 and 3x1 with just our base coverage call.